Welcome to the Honest Victorian podcast. Today we are with Tarkus.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of this podcast, The Honest Victorians, with me, Smithy. Say hello.
Hello.
And Chumm.
Hello.
And with a delay, as usual, it's becoming a standard at this point. And the special guest we have today, Tarkus. Welcome.
What's up, boys?
How you doing?
Hey, welcome,
I asked
Tarkus.
first.
Yeah, you made it
Oh,
now.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Smithy?
I'm good.
Yeah, we're all good here. Right, so we'll start off the questions with, where did your name come from? Like, how is that?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's a classic. I mean, basically, when I was, I want to say like 12 or so, I started playing D&D for the first time, and I needed a name for a character. And my real life name, I'm okay revealing this story, is Tarik, like Tarik. That's the Turkish spelling for it.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I need to come up with a name. So I just took my real name and then Latinized it. So I took off the ending and put us, like, you know, that's like how every Latin word
Yeah.
ends in US, right?
Oh.
Like Tarkus. And then I needed and also there's like Dark Souls character and stuff. But that, I didn't think of that at the time. That came after. I was like, oh yeah, that's the Dark Souls character, Tarkus. But then afterwards, I was thinking of a last name for the character, and I kept on repeating. I was doing a Discord call with I think it was actually a Skype call, I don't remember, with one of my friends, and I was like, Tarkus, Arkus, Arkus. I kept repeating the syllable because I didn't know what it would be. I didn't know what to pick, and then we ended up with Tarkusarkusar, and that just
Wow.
became my name forever.
That's crazy.
Whenever I see your name, I think of like a dinosaur name. I don't know
Yeah, I
why.
can see that.
Yeah.
I can see it.
It's like
Yeah.
yeah, that is kind of a dinosaur name, isn't it? Something that some
Yeah.
scientists came up with.
Tarkusaurus Rex. It's my second
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't have a
really?
second- No, I don't have a second channel. I'm just fucking with you.
Oh, I was like, I did not do my research. And
No, I'm just joking around.
I do like it. It is distinct, so it's easily memorable.
Yeah, it's hard to spell though. A lot of people have trouble.
Yes.
When I was doing a lot of Twitch streams, I don't stream as much as I used to, just because of economics, to be quite frank. But like when I was Twitch streaming a lot, you know, on Twitch you can raid people, right? So you gotta type someone's name to raid. I used to get
Right.
complaints from other streamers I was working with that were like, "Bro, raiding you is a pain because I gotta type your name in the fucking chat
Yeah.
to like raid, and it's like impossible." And I was like, "Bro, it's easy. It's like 4 letters. You just repeat them."
Yeah.
That's all it is,
Also,
man.
is it that hard to copy and paste, or is that just not something
Well, I mean,
people
you know,
know?
some people are stubborn and don't want to give in.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's the name. So how did you start about doing YouTube then?
Well, I started during COVID, because, well, I mean, I guess it's gonna be like a bit of a sad story, but I guess it works out.
Yeah.
I was in university doing linguistics. I was very happy doing that, and I was also working in movies. I live in just outside Vancouver, and Vancouver has a lot of movie stuff going on.
Yeah.
And my aspiration when I was like 17 was to become like a accent trainer for Hollywood and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do my linguistics degree. Then I'm gonna
Oh,
work
wow.
on movies at the same time, and I'm gonna do that. Over time, my sort of movie industry kind of lost its luster because it's extremely hardcore. I could tell stories forever about like crazy shit that goes on in films and stuff like that.
Right.
But either way, when COVID happened, movie business died down a lot, obviously. Especially they started doing what's called skeleton crews, which is when you have like the bare minimum people, like you have like almost no extra people, right? So my role usually was like a set hand or like an assistant or whatever. I would do whatever I could basically just to be on the film set, and I got quite a few connections that way. But they didn't need people like that anymore because they were skeleton crewing, so you only had the bare minimum. So I lost work in that sense. I had also been a tutor. I was teaching high school kids like French and Spanish because I foreign languages pay well in Canada. So I was doing that. So I had quite okay income, but then suddenly like everything got cut off because of COVID. Like I lost that income.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a lot of trouble in school because I was not very good at online courses. So I was doing poorly in school. And then I had like a really bad breakup with my girlfriend at the time. And like everything just piled on real bad, and I was like, fuck, dude. I ended up withdrawing from school. I did not drop out. My GPA is still very high, but I withdrew. Like I chose to just not go to class anymore.
Right.
And then I started doing YouTube, and I did Twitch first, but I started doing Twitch just because it was funny. One of my IRL friends, who I don't talk to anymore because of another story, but who at the time was trying to become a VTuber. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna stream and be better than him because it's like we're like memeing. We're very competitive guys, and we just like meme with each other and stuff, right? So I said I'm gonna beat you at streaming just because it's something to do while I'm like depressed. And then I ended up doing significantly better than him with Xer Kings 3 speedruns, my first niche, and that was
Wow.
that was how I started off. Yeah.
Yeah, that segues into the next question we had about your niche here, because
Yeah.
I know that when you started YouTube, you had a meteoric rise to fame. Essentially, you jumped hugely in subs. Could you
Yeah.
explain a little bit about that and how did that
That was
feel? And
that was the Crusader Kings 3 Ultimate Achievement Guide where I did a speedrun on Twitch. I did a live stream that was the first one I ever did that was all achievements. I think it was about 21 hours. I don't remember. In the guide it says how much, but it's like 20 to 22 hours, I forget. But I streamed like nonstop, no breaks for like 22 hours. And I got every achievement in Crusader Kings 3, like the entire game in one sitting. So that was like the big like check out my
Bloody hell.
epic accomplishment here. Took me like maybe a month and a half because the thing is, a lot of it is skill issues. When you're getting to 12 hours of gaming, you just start making mistakes. And the way I
Yeah.
had structured that run was and it was unwisely structured in some ways. It was that if I made like a single mistake, it would slow down the run enough that I wouldn't be able to make it. Now I later learned that my endurance is much higher than I ever thought. I thought I wouldn't be able to make it past like 20 hours. So I was like, I have to slot everything into this 20-hour section. But later on I ended up doing an even longer run that I was okay with. But basically I made the guide video. I took that 22-hour stream, I added post commentary and cut it to like a hour and a half or 2 hour long video. I forgot how long it was.
Wow.
That was like,
Wow.
here's how to get every achievement in the game and how to do it really fast too, because I did all of it in like less than a day.
That's
And that video
crazy.
just completely exploded and just like took Paradox tweeted it, Paradox posted in their
Whoa.
Discord. Like it just went
Right.
crazy. I had like hundreds of thousands of views on it. And I was like, okay, that's pretty nice. And that got me just like a nice subscriber base. And then from there, I was able to just make like GigaChad stories that would do very well because you have once you have a base of subscribers, you can make some content that will at least perform mediocrely, and then
Yeah.
you'll be all right. I got monetized after that video, so I was like, okay, now I can make money on YouTube. Hell yeah!
Oh wow!
It's really
Imagine if
fun.
you were
I-
monetized beforehand.
Yeah, that would have been nice. That video
Yeah.
still made. So that video got like more than 80% of its views like before I was monetized, but after I was monetized,
Oh.
it still made me like a couple $100 because of how
Yeah.
many views it was
Wow,
getting.
that's
Right.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider doing that for Victoria 3?
God no.
Do it.
The only reason why for real is that those achievements that are like you have to complete the hegemon objective and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those require you to play to 1936, all three of them. And
Yeah.
one game of Victoria 3 1936 for me anyway. I have a pretty mediocre computer, so this is probably just my issue. One game of Victoria 3 1936 is like 12 hours for me. That's 12 hours right there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that would mean like a minimum 36 hours of playing, and that is beyond me. I'm pretty sure. The longest I've ever streamed is 30 hours. That was the longest I ever did, and that was for Victoria Kings 3 All Achievement Guide again, where I did like all the new achievements from the new DLCs. But yeah, that was like that. I don't think I can do at 30 hours. I was feeling like I was disassociating. You know what I mean? I was like, fuck.
Oh,
I'm 30 hours
yeah.
of staying awake. It's 30 hours of like hardcore gaming.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't think I could do Victoria 3 just because of those achievements. If I were to get a better computer or find some way to circumvent the lag, or if I could maybe add the house rule that I don't have to do those particular achievements, I could do it because I can do one playthrough 936 for the Victorian Century achievement. But stuff like American Territory is so RNG. I'd have to probably do it first, and I don't even know how to do American Territory yet. I know one guy in my Discord has done it. I've asked for his technique.
Wow.
And he has told me that it's literally just like you have to hope to get Mexico and Britain to support you in independence, and then hope that like America's really stupid with how it places its troops. And I'm like, okay, I'll try grinding it out because I really would like to make a guide for that achievement because no one has. But yeah,
Wow.
it is apparently doable if you believe a random Discord guy. I have no idea if he's lying or what. I don't think he's lying
I
though.
believe.
He's a trustworthy member of the community, so I don't think he's lying.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like fuck, I'd have to consistently be able to do that achievement. And then I'd have to do stuff like Luxurious Luxembourg, which is much easier than American Territory, but still pretty tough. And even stuff like the Sick Empire, the Sick Pun, or the one for the Sick Empire. I forget what it's called, but one where you conquer Britain is Sick Empire. That one is also like pretty tough to do consistently. At least in current
Mm.
patch. Back in my day, you had 3 boats and a dream, but now you have to actually play the game.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's a good segue into the other question I was going to ask you about is that how do you feel the game has changed, and if you feel like there's been great changes, and what we would like to be headed and that sort of stuff. Do you
Yeah.
remember launch, like how the game
Oh
stayed
yeah,
at launch?
oh yeah. I played the game the day it came out just because my chat wanted me to. I was still a dedicated CK3 gamer. And then I had never played Victoria 2, and everyone was so hyped for Victoria 3 because it was like Victoria 2 was this kind of cryptid in the Paradox community. Like
Right.
everyone knew about it, but no one played it except for like a dedicated group of, cryptid hunters. Austin was Victoria 2 players who like, would actually play the game. And I knew of like Spudgun, is a YouTuber that like does Victoria 2 multiplayer stuff,
Mhm.
still does today. Like, it's a very
Yeah.
small community. But Victoria 3 was like this promise of we're gonna bring Victoria the cryptid to like the whole audience, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Then it comes out and I play it, and at first I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't understand how anything works, which is like every Victoria 3 player at first, and probably
Yeah.
Victoria 2 and Paradox games in general. But Victoria 3 is among some of the harder game to wrap your head around, because in EU4 it's like you conquer development, and then you get money, and then you use that money for the army to conquer more development. It's pretty easy. In Crusader Kings 3, you have kids. The kids have better stats, and then you keep refining your children over the centuries.
Yeah.
It's not definitely hard to understand. But in Victoria 3, you'd be like, okay, I just built up these coal mines, and now I'm losing more money because presumably like the price of coal dropped or something, and then or like you don't understand the translation between like budget and profits on a business.
Right.
So you're like, where's all this money going? And it's like, it's going to the capitalists. You fool. You're not getting any of that money. But anyway,
Right.
when the game launched, it was so exploitable. Like there was so much in the game that was like ridiculous. There was the teleporting generals, if you remember that, where you set this
Oh
is
yeah.
before armies were on the map. You could set a general to be attacking or defending, and then they would just go to a front line and they would just teleport there. So that was crazy. There was the boat, the 10 boat strat. I remember I called it because I would always do it with 10 boats, where a naval landing could not be defended against by an army if that army was busy fighting off another naval landing, and every army was just one. Like there was just one big
Right.
army that could defend, like Britain, for example. So you send 10 boats with one guy in them, and one of them is going to land, and then you teleport in the main army. And that was one of my
Yeah.
first Victoria 3 videos, was the Sick Empire, just like showing off the teleportation strat. But anyway, the question was more about in terms of like changes and stuff that I felt over the years. So over the years, fuck, it's only been like a year Victoria 3 hasn't it? I don't know. I don't know how long it's been. But either way, it feels like it's been years because so much has changed. But early Victoria 3 was like a buggy hell. That was fun because sometimes it is fun just to like have some exploit that you completely like exploit to create some crazy stuff. But the game didn't really make a lot of sense. There are a lot of issues with how like the capitalists translated money into the investment pool. There was like tooltips weren't really very correct, and a lot of things are very opaque is the word used for it. Like a lot of mechanics that were like difficult to really understand just because they weren't presented well. Victoria 3 still has that problem, but they've gotten a little better. The biggest change has definitely been sphere of influence. Like we talk about, like Voice of the People gave agitators. That was a big change, but it wasn't that huge. Although exiling in the time, I remember the times before you could exile members of a interest group, and that was like good luck ever determining what your interest groups are gonna support because you can't change them. They're just stuck forever.
Pure lottery. Yeah.
Exactly. And in with sphere of influence though, we saw the changes to the economics, and I definitely like the change, but I just what keeps happening with Victoria 3 for me is like I have some kind of expectation, and then it gets almost met but not quite. Like I remember when I made a video about my thoughts on Sphere of Influence before it came out, and I was saying how I was very excited because we were going to see what would have been, I think, like a very interesting system of balance between the interests of like the capitalists, the workers, and the state, because you could have had government-owned buildings, locally owned buildings, and privately owned buildings. And to me, it was like it'd be an interesting meta to have to determine between, if you don't make enough buildings worker-owned, you're going to get a lot of radicals because workers are going to be wanting higher wages, and if they own the building, they'll make a lot more money. You're going to have the like interests of the capitalists who can give you a lot of in reinvestment. But then if they control too much, they're going to be so rich they'll dominate your politics. And then if you have the government interests, like you can have like government buildings. And I proposed in that video the drawback that government buildings are less efficient, which they ended up going with. I don't think it's because of my video or anything, but I was like, yeah, government buildings should be less efficient, but then you get more money out of them. But then the system ended up being pretty one-dimensional, where like there really wasn't much balance to take into account. And this is probably controversial in the community, but like to be quite frank, like laissez-faire is just the best law. According to Generalist, one of the spreadsheets, industry band actually
Ooh.
gives you the most investment, which I completely believe because the numbers are in
Whoa.
an industry band are
Whoa.
crazy. The problem is that industry band, you get the best investment on the shittiest industries. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you get
True, true.
plantations, you get farms, you get like very basic manufacturing, but you don't get like steel, you know, you don't get like anything actually useful. But technically, for you get the most money out of the economy through industry band. But laissez-faire has always been on the top, especially because of the company slot. Okay. And unfortunately, Paradox didn't do a whole lot to fix that just overwhelming meta. Like just laissez-faire is just like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It's just so much better than anything else. Only
Mhm.
case I can see against it is if you're like a subject and you don't want your overlord like completely controlling your economy. So you use
Right.
interventions to not let them privatize everything. But yeah, I find that to summarize my answer to the question, because I know I'm rambling, I'm really sorry about that. The changes are nice, but I keep on wanting more. I keep on wanting to see more changes that are impacting the game a bit more intensely, and also more creativity in the game. It feels sometimes like, and this is maybe me being a meta slave, although I play pretty anti-meta a lot of the time just for fun. But like, if there's kind of like an objectively correct pick, I usually will take it because it feels bad to play in error, is what I would say. It's like a chess
Right.
term, you know?
Yeah.
It feels
Mhm.
bad to like play in error, so I don't want to do that. So I will usually go with whatever's like at least somewhat strong. And laissez-faire is so far ahead of everything that it just makes no sense to play without laissez-faire. So that kind of limits the creativity. So I try to find creativity in other ways, but like even power blocks, I felt like there wasn't like ideological union sucks. The religious one kind of sucks. It's fun for roleplay at least, but the religious one kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Trade League is like good. Sovereign Empire is good. The rest of them are just like bad. It's like except for Military Treaty can be good for like max infamy runs, but you know it feels like there's not a lot of choices, even though there are choices, but a lot of them aren't takeable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That actually that takes us back to last episode, which it's a different episode, but we were talking with Toby a little bit, and he said the same thing where it kind of gives you like the illusion of choice.
Yeah.
But really,
Yeah.
there's only one true choice, which, like you said, is laissez-faire. And I think that's like the sentiment in the community as a whole is we just want like more choice
Some
and not like
creativity, I think.
yeah, some like
Creativity
you
is
said,
big, yeah.
creativity. Yeah, and I think I think that would go huge. Like that would go a long way for Victoria 3.
Mhm.
And it is especially annoying because they kind of already tease this to you. Like you have, oh well, look, if you keep your absolute monarch, or if you keep a very like centralized authority or oligarchy or autocracy or something, you get more authority or something like that. They try to push towards you that, well, there are trade-offs. While in reality, that like a surplus of that much authority are not that really. You get laws faster, you can put more decrees, not more than that. So like they are kind of saying that we want more routes to be viable, but they aren't because the trade-off is so horrendous.
Yeah.
So it is frustrating that the framework is there, but they're not really utilizing it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Like one thing I'll tell you, just because I'm very experienced, I have more hours in Crusader Kings 3 than any other Paradox game.
Right.
And in Crusader Kings 3, one of the biggest innovations that came to it that absolutely like changed the game was the culture system. And if anyone's familiar with Crusader Kings 3, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Every
Totally.
culture
Yeah.
could have up to 8 cultural traditions once they get to the end game. In the early game, it's 5, then it becomes 8 later on. And some of them were just numbers, and that's fine. Some of them were just like little modifiers. You know, it's okay to have like some pretty like uninteresting culture traditions to sort of flesh things out, but others of them were like game changing like additions to your ability to how you play the game, and that was huge in terms of making the game a lot more fun, because in Crusader Kings 2 cultures were just like basically an opinion modifier, and then a handful of cultures had unique stuff. Later on they added retinues in Crusader Kings 2, so each culture got their own retinue type, and that was like a slight increase in creativity. But in Crusader Kings 3, like the hybrid cultures, the divergent cultures, the cultural traditions, these all created so much creativity in the way you play the game that I could do like GigaChad story videos about Crusader Kings 3 forever. And in fact, I'm looking forward to doing more of them once the new DLC comes out. But
Nice.
in Victoria 3, it's like, bro, I've tried to squeeze creativity out of the game. I did the like make all of France French video because I was like, let me just like fuck around with assimilation and stuff. And it was
Right.
like, even this isn't even that creative. It's literally just like watching a simulation happen. It's not even like I'm doing very much. But like
Yeah.
it's hard to find creativity. They really need to add something like, I don't know if it's power blocks. I mean, were a slight step in creativity, but then everyone figured out what the best mandates were and just went with those. And
Right.
it is what it is. I guess that's always going to happen. And Xer Kings 3 has the same thing, but in Victoria 3, playing wrong doesn't ever feel good. In Xer Kings 3, I love to play wrong because it's funny a lot of the time to
Yeah.
play incorrectly. It's funny to throw in Xer Kings 3. In Victoria 3, throwing really sucks. Similar to EU4. In EU4, throwing kind of sucks too, but
Mhm.
at least there's a lot more government options in the EU4. Like you have the customizable government reforms. So at least you have stuff in there. But even Hawaii 4, you get the customizable tanks, and it can be fun to try different buildings and stuff, or different builds in Hawaii 4. I don't play a
Right.
ton of Hawaii 4, but it's fun to like experiment with different tactics.
Yeah.
That in Hawaii 4 there is definitely like the like infantry artillery combo that will pretty much win you the game against the AI. Although multiplayer gets way more complicated. But even if you're playing single player, you can just fuck around with different builds for the fun of it. And Victoria 3 is nothing like that. It's like every
No.
unit's a direct upgrade on the previous one.
Yeah.
Every like mobilization option is just a correct choice. You just always take every mobilization option because the army's very cheap. Depending on how big it is, of course. But
Yeah.
it's annoying to not
Mhm.
have the creativity. I wish it had more creativity.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
you always go for to strengthen intelligence and industrial clout, and then if you want to maximize standard of living, you always go communist in the late game. It kind
Yeah.
of gets boring. Like, and I wouldn't be opposed to having some sort of meta that like this is this in terms of the numbers this is better, but only if the trade-off was better. Like say if
Right.
I kept my absolute government, say that I could push laws without the support of parliament or something. Like I mean, there's an event for that if you have a autocrat, as if you are an absolute monarch. There's a random event that says that I just want to push this law ahead when you trade off some radicals or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like that should like maybe be a game option or something, or more frequent or something like that. But something
Yeah.
that just gives you like, I don't know if this is suboptimal, but this is still a viable like way to play the game. Like instead of what you're saying is that I always have in the back of my mind that I could have like thousands of capitalists just reinvesting in my economy right now, and I'm gonna have a smaller GDP for it, and that is frustrating for the player.
Yeah. One thing, I'll add this quick note to what you said about that event that where you can pass the laws in autocratic monarch. A lot of things in Victoria 3 that are like events should be game mechanics. Like
Yeah.
you know how
Mhm.
when you get
Yeah.
this is a really like obscure event, but you might know what I'm referring to. You know when you get the springtime of the people's journal entry, and you get all the
Yeah.
radicalism happening in your country. When you try
Mhm.
to pass universal suffrage, the waiting for the event Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité increases massively, which is the event where you can pass, like you basically kill your king and then pass republic and universal suffrage. It's a pretty rare event, but it insta passes the law and kills your king.
Right.
That event is really nice because passing suffrage or passing republic can often lead to civil war. But if you just chop the king's head off and then it passes, then you don't have to worry about it as much. That should just be a button. Like you should just be able to you should just
Yeah.
be able to like during the springtime of the peoples, like when that journal entry comes up, based on let's say you have like one or let's say two powerful interest groups with a radical ideology, then there should be a button that you click that just executes your king, not like a event. A lot
Mhm.
of things that should be mechanics become events that I really don't like. Um, I can't think of explicit examples off the top of my head right now again because I had that one in my head about the universal suffrage and the monarchy. But like, those journal entries should have a lot more buttons in them. The ones that have buttons are always nice because then it's like you're adding new things to do in the game. But a lot of them are more like I didn't even realize this in my first couple months of playing Vic 3, but journal entries are like the ability to gain access to random events. And that can
Yeah.
be a little bit like that can it ends up meaning there's more nuance to the game than you might think by just looking at it because there's
Right.
not buttons to press, but there's journal entries to exist with that will get you more options. But like it really should just be you really should be able to just say I want to do this and not have it be it feels
Yeah.
more agency that way. It feels like it's not random. It feels like you made the choice. I tell you this, a lot of players, I think, would love to click a like off with his head button for the king when the radical
Oh,
journal entry comes up.
100%.
Yeah.
They would love that. But if you
Yeah.
just get it as an event, you're just like, oh, that's cool, and you move on. When it's your
Right.
choice,
Right.
it makes a lot more. And that's what to me, not to get too big brained, that's what video games are all about, right? Is making it interactive. It should be a button
Yeah.
that you click, not something that happens to you. Also, my breakfast is ready, so I'm gonna get it out of the oven. I'll be back in like literally like a minute
Okay.
and a half. I'm not gonna be gone long. So just
All right,
one
go
second.
for it. Go for it.
We'll keep up the pace, guys.
Yeah, boys,
Yeah,
this is
you're doing pretty
working.
well.
But
How long has how long have we
it,
been recording?
Half an hour.
Okay.
all right.
But I was thinking we could talk about decisions, you know, in like other games, like I don't know, all the other Paradox
Yeah,
games.
CK,
Everything has
U4.
decisions, right? And
Yeah.
Victoria 3, like, where are they? Like, I know
Yeah,
you
know.
have some with your
Well, we
journal
were talking about
entries.
that too before, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like they tried to like make the journal entries like the national ideas from EU4 or the kind of events or something that you're working towards in CK, but like they don't work that way. Like they're not that prominent for the player that is like, oh well, if I can, you know, all that if I can get 5 universities, so I get the more university throughput event, I'll do that. But if I don't,
Oh yeah.
it's not. I'm not. It's not gonna
Oh, yeah.
bother me.
Yeah.
Or
Very
when I
true, very true.
urbanize X country, like it's not a strong like in. And I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna ask Tarkus about this as well. In EU4, one of the things that is so attractive is that well, the not only is the goal something that is you can watch your mission 3 and literally go down and say that well I'm eventually going to work towards this and this is the like the paths along the way, but also you can see what the reward will be. Like I
Yeah.
need to work towards this because this is something I want. Like
Yeah.
say if I get a bonus for forming Germany, I get like or it's prestige or whatever it is. Like if I should focus on this because this gives me more whatever reward Victoria tries to put on you. Like it's more mining throughput, it's more legitimacy, it's more trade unions clout or something like that. Whatever it is, like
Right.
I want to focus on this goal because it gives me this reward, which is going to be important for me in this part of the game. So you can plan ahead
Right.
and stuff like that. The events, if you haven't played Victoria 3, you don't know what the reward is. You just know that well something good is going to happen, I think. And
Yeah, and that would make content creation so much easier.
yeah,
Like, by far.
totally.
Sorry, we just
and-
continued the conversation about decisions.
Oh yeah, no problem. No
Yeah,
problem, yeah. Keep going, keep going. I have my burger. I ran out of bread, so I have one piece of bread and then lettuce on top as a second bun.
perfect, man,
You
perfect.
guys heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
That's how he makes his burgers.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a bread on the
Yum.
bottom. See?
Yeah.
It's half lettuce wrap.
So nice.
We
But- yeah.
like and comment this video if you want Tarkus to make a how to cook video.
Oh,
Yeah, how
dude,
to cook
I
half a
look.
burger.
Cooking is something which I have gotten a lot better at in recent time because I live with my partner now, and they don't cook. Okay, I
Oh,
cook.
yeah.
So
Right.
I've been learning how to cook. I can make kebabs. I can make that's because I'm Turkish. Okay, I gotta know how to make kebabs. I can make like pasta and mac and cheese. Well, the mac and cheese. Well, here's the thing. I can make the macaroni, but the cheese part, like you gotta like put it in the pan and stuff. I let my partner do that part because they know how to do that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
living without my parents means I've had to learn how to cook for sure. So I've been
Right.
getting a lot better at it. But for the most part, I still just eat like simple oven foods because they're cheap though. The YouTube life is not one of riches until you get much bigger. So I got to be pretty smart on the spending.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll buy like here in Canada anyway, especially our groceries are pretty expensive. We've been having a lot of more problems with inflation than the Americans have. So for example, like I'll get like a box of like really shitty burgers that are like 40% wheat, which is what I'm having right now.
Yum.
For like it'll be like 12 burgers for like $8, which is like a crazy deal. Most burgers are like $14 for like 8 burgers, and those are like good ones. But I'm willing to
Right.
eat lower quality if it means cheaper.
Mm.
Sorry to go on the cooking rant. I just cooking's been a big part of my life lately. I've had to do a lot of cooking.
This episode is yours, Tarkus.
Yeah.
It's yours, Tarkus. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's all
yeah.
good.
Speaking
Yeah,
of the
I'm a
YouTube
guest.
life,
I'm a guest.
Yes.
I'm a guest, guys. It's your
you are no,
podcast.
you are,
I'm just
you are
waiting. I'm here.
you are the main attention. Okay, and speaking
Yeah,
of the
okay.
YouTube life, you were talking earlier about going full time on YouTube. I don't know if you want to talk about it here or now, but
Sure, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
do you have a question? Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, I mean, no, you go ahead. No, I'll let you have the reins.
Sure. Well, I've been streaming on Twitch for like 2.5, I think 3 years now. Actually, yeah, I think I hit my 3rd stream anniversary in April because I started streaming around my birthday. So I was streaming Twitch for like 3 years, but once I did the CK3 all achievement guide and that really blew up, I started seeing how much money YouTube makes compared to Twitch. And it
Yeah.
was like incomparable. I was like, holy shit! Like on Twitch, I would make when I made like $300 on Twitch one month, and I was like, yo, 300 Canadian bucks, by the way. So
Right.
that's like 10 American dollars. But but like I made like $300 on Canadian on Twitch, and I was like, holy shit, dude! I just made like the most money I've ever made in my life right now. Well, not ever in my life, but ever on Twitch. I mean, I made like a shit ton. There's like a shit ton of
Living
money.
the life.
Then like one YouTube video that blows up isn't even monetized, but then gets monetized partway through, ends up making more than that after like 1/10 of its views come in. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. This video did blow up, so maybe it won't be like all of them. Then I upload like a couple more videos that get like 10,000 views. That's not nothing, to be clear. I was very proud of those numbers. But like, this is not like millions of views or anything. I was just like 10,000 views, whatever, and it would be like each video made like $50. Canadian
Right.
again.
Yeah.
So like 50 cents American. And I was like, oh shit. Like that's like I made that video in like about 4 days of effort. So like it'll be like playing the game for 8 hours in one sitting just to get footage, writing a script for it, editing it, and then uploading it. That's like we'll call that like 4 days of working. I work anywhere from like 8 to 16 hours a day, sometimes 0 hours, just depends on what exactly I'm doing and how hard I'm going on that day. But
Right.
like, I was like, yeah, all right, 4 days of effort, I got $50 for it. On Twitch, $50 would be like me streaming like for 6 to 8 hours for like a week and a half straight. Like that would be like $50.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep streaming because I'm enjoying it. I don't want to just abandon my stream career here.
My roots,
But for a while, I was streaming for like I was streaming like every day except for Sunday. I made a joke in my community that Sunday's the Lord's Day. I'm not even Christian, but I would just say it because it was funny. So I would do that for a while, and then I would stream like every day from like I think it was like I think it was like 10 a.m. to like 6 p.m. or something. So 8-hour streams, and it was making me like almost nothing. Then I do YouTube for like a little while, and it's already making more than Twitch, and I'm like, okay. I finally got big enough around I want to say last November to December, where I was making enough money on YouTube then just from like the passive viewership on old videos that I was making like maybe like $500 or so each month just from doing nothing. And I was like, okay, because that's not bad. That's pretty good to just have as passive income. Because all my old videos were just stacking up more and more views. Like they just keep getting viewed. My old Victoria 3 guides for like the original patches when the game first came out still get views and still get comments of people saying that they're outdated. And I'm like, yeah, it's outdated, motherfucker. This came out like a year ago. Like,
Yeah.
but it still gets views. I don't know why. They still stack up views. It's evergreen content. It's called, right? And when they last forever.
Right.
I didn't know that
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Victoria 3 guides were evergreen. I would have thought they were the opposite. But for whatever reason, like the Russia guide that I did, like that just still gets views. The
Really?
Second Empire guide still gets views.
Right.
Yeah, this stuff still gets views.
Really?
All right.
Wow.
So those were making me like just nice passive money. And then if I made videos pretty consistently, I was finding I would make like about 1,000 a month, and that is not a ton, but it was getting to the point where it's like, okay, I can cover like a lot of my expenses with that.
Mhm.
And then in January, I moved out from my mom's place to live with my partner, and with splitting expenses with a second person and making more like about 1,000 to like 1,500 each month, I was like, yeah, okay, I actually can make this work. And I thought if I put more time into it, maybe I can make it work even better. So then I went full time around December or January or so. And I've just been like,
Wow.
all I do now is make YouTube videos. Previously, I had been like doing some tutoring on the side when I could. I had been like occasionally working on a short film here and there, but not nearly as much as I used to. And I would stream a lot more. But now I don't stream nearly as much because I can't fit it into the schedule anymore the way I used to. I used to have lots of free time, but now that I'm doing YouTube full time, it's like, well, pretty much every day is like I'm either recording or I'm writing, and then I take a break day here and there. Sometimes I'll just wake up. Like when you wake up, you're like, fuck, I don't want to do anything today.
Yeah.
I have occasional days like that, and that's my break day. So I don't have a dedicated break day. I just, when I wake up, I know if it's a break day or not, and I don't let myself take too many, but here and there is a break day. So yeah, that's the full-time YouTube life, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah.
That was kind of my idea as well with Vicky, actually, just having. I never heard the term evergreen content, but that was basically it. I'm doing general guides, not in granular game mechanics, but as in this is kind of the game philosophy. You can think that like this and this is going to be pretty decent for a long time, The game have changed a lot since then, so I don't know how evergreen it actually is. But like that was the idea, at least, that I should make some content. So that's great.
It's funny. People will watch just. I didn't realize, but like, yeah, old guides sometimes they like if the video is good enough, I guess people still watch them. Like I get people who come and ask me. I made a Ching guide for like the original patch of the game that explained like I wasn't as good at the game back then, so I gave what I believe was pretty okay advice, but it wasn't like, I've gotten better at the game now, so I wouldn't have given that advice now. But the advice was like, oh, when you do your buildings, you should focus on like a pyramid. I called it like Maslow's pyramid of like economics or whatever. It was like a meme.
right.
But it was like on the bottom
Yeah.
is like construction goods. You have to get those going. Then above that is like your agriculture goods. You gotta get those going. Then is like your industrial goods. Whereas in reality, you can basically ignore agriculture. You don't need to worry about that. But I learned that later. But I get people sometimes will come to my Discord and will ask me about that triangle, that pyramid.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, dude, that's a really old video. Like you should watch some of the new stuff where I'll tell you a lot better advice. But to be fair, that pyramid was a good way to be thinking though about like the tiers of goods. So people didn't even think of stuff like that way. They like I put at the top, I put the consumer economy, which is like the ultimate end game, which is when you're just making clothes.
Yeah.
And that was like good advice. And it was good advice to focus on your construction goods first. I just arbitrarily put agriculture in there when I really shouldn't have, because agriculture is kind of like pointless. Well, not completely, but relative to like a steel mill, agriculture is not that good. But good for some early GDP boosting, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, it's that kind of thing. I don't know why it does well still. It really shouldn't, because it's like outdated like advice basically, but it still does well.
I think I come from my years at university. Like I think people are a sucker for some very thought out, like intuitive models. Like I have a degree in criminology, for example, and like the best thing that we did was to like visualize how crime works through different models and different like figures and whatnot. So I think that it's like people, as a general rule, like they enjoy some easy to understand visualization of complex things.
That's true. That's true. I did take psychology in university, so I get it. That makes sense.
Right.
And I mean, just coming from like Paradox games are like simulators, and any way you can tie it back to real, real what's that word, real stuff. I don't know, I'm a
real
YouTuber.
life.
Yeah, real life. Like I think if you can connect that, I feel like the Paradox games are like perfect for actually like modeling real life in that way. I think that's like, I think the way that you modeled that is like amazing, and I think that's why it appeals to everybody, is because at the end of the day we all want to simulate a country.
Yeah.
And I think it just appeals to everyone.
I think Vicky also, we talked about this last episode as well, that Vicky kind of is, at least it's trying to appeal to the more economically nerds of it. It's just not a income in the right corner. It's just, it's a moving market with dynamics. Like if you raise taxes, that's going to remove actual money from your pops, and that's going to impact your business and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's a more of, as we have discovered, it's more of a simulation than we maybe initially thought, or that we ideally would want. But like it's trying to appeal to that kind of a crowd, at least.
So I'm just eating. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's all good.
I'm almost done. All right, I'm gonna get a napkin after, and then I'll be good to go.
Right. But I think, and I don't know if this has changed the longer the game has been out too, but like there's been more instances, I think, where money is just destroyed or money is just created out of thin air, because I think they were cautious with those modifiers in the beginning, and has since like tried to, since the economy was a bit unbalanced, they had since introduced more of those modifiers and stuff, which kind of breaks the
destruction of money. Like economies are closed systems, right? So like assuming that you have assuming you have an autarky, like no like trade, no like global trade and stuff, economies are in theory a closed system. Money should never be destroyed, but it's a video game, and like I don't really care that much like about like reflecting the real economics that well, but some people really care about that. Just depends on who you talk to. The only thing I don't like is destruction of money through tax capacity. That thing never made any sense. Is like you're telling me that if I don't have enough tax capacity, my pops will lose the money like normal, and then that money will just vanish. When in reality,
Yeah.
it's like that money is really important. Like that should go somewhere. I don't know where it should go,
Yeah.
but
Go
it
to
should
the
really go
pocket.
somewhere.
Like
some
right.
some
Yeah.
corrupt government officials, it goes
Yeah.
into police pockets,
Yeah.
like something.
Exactly,
If you want to reflect that you don't have proper
Mhm.
like government control to collect all of the
Right.
taxes, the pops maybe should keep it, or
Right, yeah.
or some
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Tax
I would
evasion.
imagine that
a
like
corrupt official or something like that. The money is
to
not
me,
put
that's the
into
most
a fire.
egregious money deletion. The absolute most egregious money is the tax
Right.
capacity. Everything else, like for example, when you get the government dividends are halved, if you're on interventionism, it's like
Yeah.
all right, okay, government inefficiency, we'll call that, right? Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Who cares? That's not a big deal. But to me, the big one is when you're playing as China, like there's a lot of money being destroyed in China that like that is serious stuff that would radically alter the game if that money still existed. But
Yeah.
Right.
it just goes away. It's like, bro, what the fuck?
Just disappears somewhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they should hide
what-
it in their mattress. Come on.
Yeah, no, but that's for real though.
They should just keep some of it. Like there should be an untaxed population.
Yeah, or they should
I
be
mean-
like they mentioned like the corrupt bureaucrats, like the bureaucrats working in the government administration should get more money. Then they should
Yeah.
they should take the
Oh,
money.
true.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that would make
right.
that would make sense. Whatever
Right.
bribes, you know.
Yeah, I feel like
And-
they have the systems to model it too. I mean, like let's say sure it's not the bureaucrats, it's just people evading taxes, for example. Like you could model that by just like lowering the tax percentage or something. Like having a modifier that says like, oh, minus 50% taxes, for example, for all pops, instead of having like, oh, you just don't get this money. I feel like yeah. I think there's easy ways to like fix that, but I mean the way it is
mean,
now.
Or a big
I
one would
totally
be
agree with you.
implementing like crime and stuff. It's right now Victory doesn't have any crime.
But we
Crime
have
is like a huge
police,
part
yeah.
of crime is a pretty huge part of economics.
Yeah.
To be honest, in
Right,
terms of
right.
Yeah.
in terms of like accounting for black markets. I
Oh,
took
that'd be so cool.
I took like econ, like very early econ in university. So I learned about like the idea of like the black market, right? And the black market is an econ term. Doesn't necessarily refer to like selling organs. It's when you sell goods without the government intervening. So, for
Yeah.
example, Facebook Marketplace actually is an example of a black market. You could say,
Oh,
it sounds
Really?
more, it sounds so scary,
Zuck is going
but
to jail.
it's a unmanaged market. There's no
Oh, yeah.
taxation when you sell something on Facebook Market, right?
Right.
In theory,
Yeah.
there's no one's taxing the transaction, so therefore it's black market. You could say it implies illegal, but it's not necessarily always illegal. It's just that it's unmanaged. And I think that adding like a black market system that ties into like crime would be really interesting because stuff like the opium trade in China, like it's weird that Qing can just ban opium and that's the end of it. There's now no opium.
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
over.
Very true.
Whereas in reality, we all know that the reason that Hong Kong was like conquered was because
Yeah.
the British were already sneaking opium into Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to make it official so they could tax it better. That's the only reason why Hong Kong. Like to be clear, when China banned opium, that didn't stop opium coming in. It just made it illegal for it to come in. But it was still
Exactly.
happening.
Yeah.
And then Britain gets Hong Kong and makes it legal by like, being okay, this place is not Qing territory, it's British territory where we legalize opium and they distribute it in Hong Kong and then it finds its way into China naturally. Like that's all the point of Hong Kong. Well, there's more point to it obviously, but economically that was the big purpose of Hong Kong was like the legalization of opium in that one territory. And like that should be simulated to some extent. Now the thing is, I will say I can see why maybe it's hard to simulate like crime and stuff because it's like a very like black markets are very dynamic and I don't know how to I don't have off the top of my head like an answer to the problem, but just like these economic nuances are really missing that would add a lot of interesting stuff to the game.
Right.
But like I like to make critiques if I have an answer to them usually. I don't like to just throw like anger at stuff.
Right.
So, I don't really have much of an answer for it. Like I don't know what to do about it, but there's just in general there's a problem in Victoria 3 with like a lack of minutia. Some people don't care for minutia, but I care about it a lot. I care about like the details when it comes to
Right.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, speaking of
We do as
the
well.
whole thing about money destruction or creation, right? Like not everybody knows that if you are borrowing money in Victoria 3 as the player, that money actually goes to your capitalists, right? Like it's they are essentially buying government bonds and the interest goes to to them.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, so yeah.
Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah, now you know.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
yeah.
No,
Because
I learn a lot
interest
from
is
these
paid out.
calls.
When your government budget loses interest, like it's being paid to
Oh,
someone,
wow,
and that's
really?
the owners of the buildings you're borrowing from. Because
I mean,
interest,
oh, wow.
loans are taken out from the cash reserves of your businesses, plus a small
See,
base amount. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I have you guys because
Yeah, I
I'm
just
like
learned that as well.
yeah,
Nice.
I'm
yeah,
a normal Wiki
I mean, I've been looking forward to talking to
actual
Tarkus, man.
Wiki
He has so intricate understanding of the game mechanics. I just,
Yeah.
yeah, I
You guys
love
should get
your
journalist
content,
on here.
man.
He's even better than me. Look, you guys think I'm good? Get journalist on. He knows even more than I do, and he could give you numbers. I play by feel. He plays by feel too, but he verifies his feelings later with spreadsheets.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I just kind of like I
Mm.
just check the way I found about interest was I just looked at the economics of my capitalists and saw they were making interest, and I was like,
Right.
do I have loan sharks in the game? No, it's my government
Wow.
interest. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, I
Wow,
based
that's really
a lot of my guides on the spreadsheets that generalists have put together. Really,
Yeah.
like I love generalists. It's great.
hmm
wow.
Yeah, no, he's real
I'm
good.
actually gobsmacked.
He's great. He's in terms of just like putting numbers to things. He's great at verifying information because there's a lot of things that Victoria 3 players that are like on the higher end, not just content creators, but even people in my Discord or people in John's Discord, whatever, who like understand the game and they're probably correct in what they're saying, but they don't know how to explain it. They don't know what exactly it is.
Right.
Just that like, everyone knew, for example, that lumber camps make money, right? But like, why is that? Why do iron mines and lumber camps make so much money? And it's like you just know they do because you played the game enough that like you know why they
Right.
do. But then later on, when you look at they have like the value of wood is insane compared to the expense of its workers and the expense of its input goods, right? Like that's why they make so much money. When you're making clothes, if you're doing luxury clothes, you're gonna be inputting like fabric, silk, dyes, tools, and electricity if you go to the max thing
Yeah.
for like 2 outputs. So you're naturally not going to be making that much of a profit just because those outputs are going to be so much like smaller than the outputs are so much smaller than the inputs. But in
Yeah.
lumber,
Right.
it's like you're putting in just tools and you're getting one of the most important resource goods for the like every industry in the
Yeah.
game.
Everything's
Same with
built
iron.
forward.
You're putting in like coal and tools and you're getting like this hyper important good. It's like, yeah, okay.
Right.
That checks out.
And what I learned, that this is the subject of one of my videos as well, is that in the early game, like doing, I think generals and me call it construction efficiency. Like
Yeah.
you are so starved of construction points, construction ability, that you really need to be like, not only I cannot just look what is profitable. I need to look at like how much am I getting out of every point of construction I have at my disposal. And that is why lumber camps it's an internal joke on my channel that lumber camps is the best building in the game. But like it's you have to understand that constructing a lumber camp takes 200 construction points. Constructing a simple say clothing manufactory, that's 600 construction points. A steel mill is 800 construction points, and motor industry is 800 construction points. That means you can be constructing 4 lumber camps in the same time and money and effort you're putting into constructing one clothing manufacturer, for example. So it's not only that you need to be looking at, well, is this a profitable building in terms of like input, like minus the profit minus the expenses, right? It's also like how much am I producing per construction point. So it goes much more into
if you want to see that principle in practice, go play as a Canadian country in Vic 3 and try to overtake your fellow Canadians, right? I learned this just recently. I put what you're exactly talking about into practice. I'm doing a spoiler for the next video. Okay, I don't know when you're putting this podcast out. Maybe it'll be after I put out the video. But I'm doing a Oregon, like a district of Oregon, the Columbia district into Free States of America playthrough next, because remember they have Yankee primary culture, so you can form America.
Right.
I was having trouble. So I'll explain that after, but I'll start. Okay. So you have to get higher GDP than the Hudson's Bay Company to confederate with them as the Columbia District. And at first, I was like, this is surprisingly tough because I'm building what's profitable, which is like, funnily enough, groceries. Britain needs groceries, right?
Right.
But then I thought about it. I was like, okay, now I need to get better because I'm not overtaking like Hudson's Bay Company fast enough, because I need to go faster to be able to fight America later. And then I realized, wait a minute, I got to build lumber camps. Even though they're less profitable, I can make like 3 or 4 of these in the time it takes to make
Yeah.
groceries, and then I
Yeah,
would have like
true.
double Hudson's Bay Company GDP, because the GDP contribution from those lumber camps is like basically better, if not as good as, if not better than the groceries, even though the price is like not as good. The GDP contribution is way
Yeah.
better.
Right.
So I was able to overtake the Hudson's Bay Company way faster, and you very quickly pick up on the construction point efficiency, because you have like no construction as a Canadian country, because you have like very little income, because all of it's been
Mhm.
taken away by Britain, pieces of shit. And
Whoa.
you don't really have like, sorry, it is what it is.
Whoa,
It's
whoa, whoa.
true.
we,
It's
we
true,
love
Smithy.
Britain.
Yeah, Britain's the best
was
country,
the
man.
biggest pain. Britain was the biggest pain in my ass. Britain was more of a pain than America was in that playthrough. I swear to God.
Oh yeah.
No, no.
Either way,
All incorrect.
man.
Propaganda over there.
When you're a small country like that, every construction point counts, and those lumber
Yeah.
camps are crazy good. They're so crazy.
Yeah.
And then later on, when I got Quebec, I started doing iron mines, because Quebec has crazy good iron. They have a ton of iron there. But like, point is that the efficiency, you can learn it, because a lot of times the best way to like learn something is to experience it, right? You can have a theoretical
Right.
understanding, but a lot of times I tell people that play Victoria 3 to just go play the game and just learn from your mistakes.
Right.
It took me like 2 failed playthroughs to realize that, like, yeah, those lumber camps go really hard, and I gotta build like way more of them, and they're crazy good. You get like 1 million GDP as Columbia District with like 5 lumber camps, maybe 6, I don't remember, but very, very good stuff. When it comes to the forming free states of America, by the way, any country with Yankee culture, which is very few, there's not very many of them, but that's California, New England, not the United States, because they're already the United States, and Columbia
right,
District can form, and Michigan, I guess, if you want to do it as Michigan, can form the Free States of America. And the Free States of America is like the opposite of the CSA, right? They're like if you have like a civil war where it's the North fighting the South,
yeah.
you'll get the Free States. The important difference between when a civil war happens, when you form the country, when the civil war happens, you just have the Free States of America be released, and that's that. But I found this when I was looking through the game files, because I'm a huge nerd. Okay, if you
Yeah.
click the Form Free States of America
Nerd.
button, you immediately get an event, and the event gives you multiculturalism. I don't know why,
Right.
Oh what?
but it does.
Whoa.
Multiculturalism immediately.
Oh wow.
And I did it by, I was thinking, okay, I want to look at all entries of multiculturalism in the game file. So I went on Notepad++, and I Control F for the entire Victoria 3 folder and typed multiculturalism in. And there were a couple
Whoa.
entries. One of them was in the events, and I was like, oh, okay, an event that's multiculturalism. It's probably just like it's probably just for when you're passing it. And then I saw like it was called like America events 0.002 or something, like America events. Okay. And I look, and yeah, when you form Free States of America, you immediately get an event that gives you Afro-American as a primary culture, which is normal. Usually you get that when you ban slavery and stuff.
Yeah.
But then you also get multiculturalism, and I was like, yo, that's crazy, because you can do that really early. Only problem is I haven't found a strat to, as Columbia District, defeat America really quickly. I didn't form Free States of America till like 1900, which by that point you could have gotten multiculturalism naturally anyway. But still, I want to present I don't want to waste my time like re-recording to find the perfect strat, so I'm just gonna put the video out there and just say, hey, if anyone finds a way to defeat America in like 1860 or something, that's multiculturalism real fast.
Dang, that's crazy.
Although you lose Anglo-Canadian as a primary culture when you do that, so you just yank. Because normally Columbia District is Anglo-Canadian plus Yankee, but you lose Anglo-Canadian if you form Free States of America, and you gain Afro-American, which is super good, by the way. Afro-American is amazing as a primary culture, because you can incorporate African states in 5 years.
Wait,
Really
okay,
good.
so if you become, like, let's say you federate to Canada, for example, you can still form the Free States, right?
No, once you become Canada, you lose Yankee.
Okay.
So you
Okay,
have
I
to
see,
not
I
you have
see.
to explicitly not form Canada, because
see,
then you
okay.
change to Anglo-Canadian plus Franco-Canadian. You don't get to keep Yankee. You have to keep Yankee. So that way you can
I see.
form Free States. And
Whoa.
it's cool, because it's just like an event you would never discover unless you like were fucking around,
Really
because no
try.
one
Yeah.
forms the Free States of America. But I found out by just looking at the game files, and then later I was looking at Generalist's Discord, and I saw Pelaya, one of his and mine like most hardcore chatters. Pelaya was talking about it afterwards, like, wow, I think we made like a simultaneous discovery or something, because someone else in the Discord had brought up like the Free States of America formable, and then Pelaya was like, oh, let me look into that, and then I think he found it in the game files too, and he was like, yo, what the fuck? So yeah, big discovery that no one's made a video about yet, but I've just got to write my script, and then I can put the video out. So I'm gonna do that in a couple days. But yeah, I don't know when you guys publish the podcast, so maybe I'll shout out the podcast if the video releases like around the same time or like just after the podcast, then I'll like yo,
This
I
video
revealed
is
the information.
next week. Next week.
Next week,
From
okay.
recording this.
My video's probably coming out first then. My video's gonna probably come out on like Friday. So
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
All right,
fine.
that's all good then.
Yeah.
yeah, all right. I'll still be like, hey, podcast, by the way. Maybe
Aw.
if you pay me. If you pay me, I'll do it. Show me.
Fine.
Yeah. If you send me your laptop, I'll
Alright.
do it.
Yeah, I'll sell you my laptop.
Yeah.
$2
How much for?
laptop. $2.
For clout, for the attention. So you can tell people that you sold your laptop to me. That's I'll give you the
Yeah.
right to say that.
I will pay you to take my laptop.
Yeah, jeez. What is your laptop? Sorry, I know this podcast is about me, but what laptop do you have? I just really need to know more about
Yeah.
this laptop.
I mean, I'm not a computer guy. I don't know specs that well, but I mean it's not bad. I have an i5 with an NVIDIA
All right.
GeForce GTX thingamabob. So it's not bad.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
number
that doesn't really
though.
tell me much.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the
No,
number
I
tells
mean-
you more about it.
Yeah.
I mean, no. The thing is, it's not like an awful laptop.
You know, there's a way
yeah.
to tell, like from inside.
You can
Like-
you can type in if you go into your search. You're on your Windows, I assume, right? You're like on Windows.
Right.
Task
If you go into
manager.
your search, you can type in DXDIAG or Task
Oh,
Manager, but you
yeah,
can do DXDIAG in your
Oh,
search, and
dang.
that'll give you all information. Yeah, that's what I use. I know you can do it to Task Manager, but I always just do it through DXDIAG.
Yeah,
I'm a
same.
gamer.
Same.
What?
I know, I'm using Task Manager every time.
Wait, we're getting off topic, boys.
No, it's fine.
I'll
I'm
do this, in
curious.
the back.
But
No,
it's
listen,
fine.
okay,
Just waste a
here's-
minute. Come on.
Cut his
All right,
mic.
who's editing this? All right, so I have a 12th gen i5, and then
Okay.
It's not too bad.
I have an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650.
So did you want me to cut that out? Let me just write the time down.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm
It's
just
in the
joking around. You don't have
podcast.
to cut it.
It's in the podcast.
1650. I think the laptop I used for school, which was like an MSI. I had like a way overpowered laptop for school. I don't know why I
Oh,
did. It
what?
was stupid. I had like an MSI laptop that my brother gifted to me for school, and that I think had a 1650 in it. I don't remember though. Maybe,
Yeah,
but that was
it's not
years
bad.
ago. Yeah. It was. I played Metal Gear Solid 5 during a stats class one time.
Hey.
I was like,
Yeah.
I had my I had a mouse with me, so I could like use it for class, but then I would just use it for games when I was bored in class. Still got high marks, by the way. I just sometimes I didn't feel like listening, so I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean
Pretty
that
smart.
I mean that is I had people doing that in my class as well. Like
Yeah.
obviously every class is not that interesting. So people caught me, just surfing for stuff as well. But I had a friend. He was like, or she rather, was playing actual like League of Legends on during class. It is still
Dude.
amazing.
That's crazy.
You know the amount of clicking you have to be like you have to be honed in, right?
Yeah.
And she was like just having team fights and all that, and just crazy to me.
That's crazy because you can't pause it. Like in Metal Gear Solid 5, if there's a moment where like I
Right.
need to pay attention, I just pause the game. I just press escape and I can pay attention to class, right? I
mean,
couldn't
yeah.
imagine playing a game that will make you angry, like League of Legends. A game that you can't
Yeah.
pause, and a game that's like highly involved. Like in Metal Gear Solid 5 is involved, but you can pause at any moment. So
Right,
it's not
right.
really
Yeah,
involved. You can just I can just like pause whenever I want to, and I didn't really care much. I was doing it just to pass time. But,
Right.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
League of Legends is like, dog, if you throw, like your whole team is gonna rage at you, and then you'll throw your laptop and make a big scene because you're getting angry.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I mean, I
damn.
could, I could understand like, Metal Gear Solid or I mean, any like Paradox games, any map game, or like Slay the Spire or something. But like actual like League with a mouse, and there's like just trying to make sure that the teacher didn't notice, and you were like having team fights and getting all excited and stuff. It crazy.
I feel like the
It's
excitement is trying to get teacher not to notice. That's the fun. Is
Right,
like
right.
that's the high.
Oh,
that you're
really?
getting. You're getting like a high. Like being
That's
like,
the
yeah,
real
I'm playing,
Yeah.
I'm playing League and the prof doesn't even know. That's how you're like, yeah, I'm crazy.
Yeah. And while you're dead waiting to respawn, you ask a question so not raise suspicion.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, we to get us back on track here a bit. We talked about last episode how some like in contrast to what we said earlier, or in likeness, some of the game mechanics in Victoria 3, like you really have to like data mine it to like, because they're so
yeah.
obscure, right? I mean, one of the first things that they did was that like people, like there was an outcry in the community, like, please, could you please tell me how, like, why my pops are, you know, feeling so moody? Why are they so angry?
Yeah.
Because like,
Yeah.
because the screen where like how, you know, oh well, I'm spending 15% of my salary on clothes or whatever. That screen wasn't like, it was 7 clicks away or something like that, something crazy.
I remember
So,
that. Oh yeah, I
So
remember
that,
that.
so that was like one of the first things that Paradox did. Like, oh, whoopsie, that this is might be the, you know, crucial information. And a lot of the games is a lot of the game is like that. You have to go through menus, or like the like we said earlier, the journal entries, the reward that you get for doing 5 universities or getting urbanizing your country or whatever. It's not clear to the players. Like, oh, this was a throughput bonus. I guess I take it or something, or or how the interest groups. Like what, or do officers or soldiers, do they vote for armed forces, or do they
Yeah.
vote for
Oh, yeah.
landowners? The stuff that you just have to, it's not intuitive. You just have to like look this up.
I only recently discovered in my Japan video, I dove into how interest group attraction works, because I had no
Right.
idea how it worked before. I just
Right.
I just would, like, when I'd see an interest group attraction modifier for interest group I want, I would just click it, and I wouldn't have an understanding of what that was really doing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the amount of tooltips you have to go through to find this stuff is like better than it was, but still crazy. And then you still
Ridiculous.
don't really have a good understanding, because paradox math will always get you. Okay, this happens in every
Right.
paradox
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Which
Mhm.
modifiers are additive? Which ones are multiplicative? Fuck you. That's the answer. Okay,
Yeah.
it could be any of them. Okay,
Mhm.
maybe they're both. Maybe it's both. You don't know. I'm just sure you can't be both. But you know, like when the intergroup attraction modifiers, I have now discovered are like the most useless shit in the game.
Right.
Like it will do like nothing to shift the
Yeah.
intergroup, because what happens is every pop based on their job, very very Marxist of them. Okay, every pop basically decides they're going to support based on their job and like nothing else. There is no
Wow.
other factor except for their job and the popularity of the interest group leader. Those are the two that actually matter.
Really?
That's why
Yeah.
Napoleon Bonaparte will always be like
Really?
40% petite bourgeoisie. He has like 200 popularity. Motherfucker is insane. So
Right.
petite bourgeoisie in France
Dang.
will go so hard every game because of Napoleon once he takes power. But
Really?
but like interest group attraction modifiers apply a multiplicative, so not additive, multiplier to the number. The problem is that I'll give you an example of the shopkeepers. That's what they're called. The ones that always support the
Yeah.
petite bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, their weight for petite bourgeoisie is like a several hundred, and then the next interest group after that is like the industrialists at like 10. So it's like you'll never
Wow.
get
So
them
it's
to
nothing,
support the
yeah.
industrialists heavily. Like what it is that they calculate a percentage of the pop will support different groups. So if it's like a 500, you'll take all the weights, add them together, and then take them as a percentage. So for example, let's say like just for simplicity's sake, you have a shopkeeper pop composed of 100,000 shopkeepers of the same culture, same faith. 500 points are for PB, 100 points for industrialists, and like 10 for intelligentsia. That's a total of 610 like points of interest group attraction.
Yeah.
You then divide that by 500, or I remember, you know, you get the percentage, wherever 500 is as a percent of that number. That's what percent of that 100k is going to support the PB. Then you take the next interest group, and that percentage is going to support it. Interest group attraction multiplies that attraction number by that percentage. So if it's 100 for industrialists, plus 15% will mean it's 115 now. That is a difference of like maybe 8%, which on a 100k size pop, which should be clear, most pops are not 100k in size. That's a massive pop through. If you have that, then you're going to be getting maybe like another, I want to say, like just off the top of my head, you know, do some boy math. You're getting another maybe like 1 to 2% of extra support for industrialists. Like, okay, in one pop. Not even like 1% clout. I mean, 1% more support within the one pop. It's like completely pointless. So I was like, damn, I'm so black-pilled on interest group support now, because that modifier is like meaningless in the face of the immense power of each job. Just has a set interest group it'll support, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
if the base weight is low, there's like you can add up as much multiplicative modifiers as you want. It's going to change the needle in.
It doesn't mean much. Yeah. They would have. I think they should honestly like. God, I don't know what you do, but I feel like I wish that like pops could support things that weren't just whatever their job is. Like it feels
Yeah.
like the shopkeepers will always support the petite bourgeoisie and never like anything else in large numbers. And some pops types are a little more flexible, like the engineers. Engineers, you tend to get a nice mix of industrialists and petite bourgeoisie, mostly
Right.
industrialists. But like even then,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I'd kind of like some intelligentsia in engineers. Like I don't know. I wish there was more dynamism to
Yeah.
that stuff. But by the way, I forgot how I even got here. But the point is that these arcane mechanics, these like really weird things, I didn't even discover how useless those numbers were until I was playing Japan and dove into the numbers. But like it took me so much work to figure it out. And then I got into the thought process of, okay, how are these like, how do I know which pop is going to support which group just from a glance, right? And there's a little text. If you look at a pop, it'll display in text who they support. So say like the petite bourgeoisie or the shopkeepers represent like local business owners, whatever. They usually will support petite bourgeoisie and stuff. And I thought, great, no numbers. Okay, Victorians loves to hide numbers from you.
Right.
And I hunted for the numbers for a long time, and I could never find them until I data mined them. I found them in the game files, and yeah, there's numbers for all this stuff, but it's not displayed to you. Basically, like each job just has like this massive weight for a particular group, and that's that. And you can never overcome it. You'll never make the academia support the trade unions.
Right.
You just you won't be able to. You cannot. There's no number of modifiers you can stack to possibly make it happen, even with a massively popular leader. Like all you're doing is increasing the fraction of the interest group that will support him. But I wish you could like have a massive like change in politics in the groups, but you really can't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this last episode as well. As in, they could like they have the framework for a very interesting system. As in, they could have just as easily this isn't like very apparent to the player anyway. They could have just as easily just made it so that every academic just supports intelligentsia and every soldier or officer just supports armed forces. They decided that they wanted a more dynamic, more interesting, more intricate system that they thought should change. And the machinists should go from, when you discover socialism, they should go from supporting the whatever, and then they support the
it's labor movement, by the way.
Right.
It's labor movement, not socialism. But yeah, I take your point. But continue. Sorry.
But that's basically like they have these mechanics in place. They can easily make these changes, like because they went out of their way to make a system that is intricate and dynamic, and instead went for a very like it is basically as having the interest groups aligned perfectly with, because 80% of the intelligentsia will always support the academics will always support intelligentsia, but like the framework is there for some really interesting stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I think this is it's sort of an issue that I think has been endemic to Paradox for like a while now. It feels like, where at least in CK3 we've had this problem of like really skin deep mechanics that could have been so much more. And the way you see it is when modders come to the scene, right? I made a mod for Xeric Kings 3 that added that made the legend system way better. In my opinion, obviously in my opinion, but I got a lot of community praise for it, so I think it's a little more of a widespread opinion than just mine. But like the legends were like could have been so crazy, and then they were the most like skin deep like thing you've ever seen in Xeric Kings 3. And like modders come into Victoria 3. To be honest with you guys, I haven't played very many Victoria 3 mods. I don't think I've played any, actually. So I don't actually know how crazy the modding scene is, but if it's anything like Xeric Kings 3, in Xeric Kings 3, like there is some crazy shit in terms of what people do with the framework. Because remember, when you're doing these mods, most of these modders are not coding in C++. They're using text files. Because I know I made one. It's all just text file coding. Like this is not some crazy shit of like, we made a new game. This is like I'm just typing in shit in text files because the groundwork is amazing and the framework is amazing and like the moddability is crazy. And I'm like, if someone who I don't know anything about computer science, I did like Scratch when I was in like high school.
Scratch.
Like, I don't know anything about.
I love Scratch.
I love Scratch.
Yeah, I don't know shit about like programming. So I dove into modding feeling like scared, and then I realized, bro, it's all just text files. Holy shit, this is easy. Definitely not that easy for something like Skyrim, I'll tell you that. I haven't done Skyrim modding, but I know Skyrim modding goes really hard with how people go on it. By the way, my point is that it's clear that if me, some random dude, can make a system which is better received by the community in like, I did it in like a week or so. Like, immediately. I didn't get paid for it. I just it was in my free time. Just in between making videos, I was like, let me go work on my mod for a minute, and then I published it like a week later. why can't like Paradox do something that's like a little more creative, man? Like
Yeah.
you know,
Right,
not to be, because thing is ultimately they put the effort in of creating that framework, and that you recognize that like, yeah, that probably
Yeah.
was a lot of work
Definitely.
to create this framework, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, dog, you reached the finish line, and then you stumbled. You just needed to then take the
Yeah.
framework that you made. You put so much work into the framework. Now, just get creative and make something cool with the own framework. You don't have to make any. I'm not asking for anything crazy. Like all I wanted from Legends was that every legend be a little different from the other. But in reality, CK3, there's only 3 legends in the game. They all just have different names. That's all. There's 3 legend
Right.
types. Legend types. Every legend type is the same as every other legend type. They just different names. So
Wow.
like you have 3 types and that's it. I made 5 types and then gave different like more of each type so that way you could have like
Yeah.
more of them, and then the rewards were also much more playable. Like I gave one of the rewards I gave was a new Casus Belli, which everyone loves war, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, this is, and it's interactive, right? That's a lot of the rewards for Legends are all passive in Victoria Kings 3. I know it's a Victoria 3 podcast, but it's what I've experienced with. I imagine Victoria 3 has the same thing going on with the modders, where you'll have like these modders creating like way more interesting systems out of the framework, and I don't know, like
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I don't know
definitely.
why. I don't know why they're like stumbling with that stuff, because that should
Yeah.
be the easy part. To be frank, the
Well,
framework is the
yeah.
hard part. That's the hard part. Is like making the power
Yeah.
block UI, making the C++ or whatever language they use coding in order to make that actually work. That should be the hard part. The easy part should be the part where you just edit some text files.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what's
Well,
wrong. I don't know why they can't do
I
it.
think
Yeah.
one of the issues is the lack of just mod interest, like modding interest.
Right.
Nobody really like. I think a part of that is because Victoria 3 is very like. There's not that much interest compared to other Paradox games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's still baby. You know, the modding community is still like a child.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some really cool mods coming out nowadays, but I think like I don't know. I feel like in time there should be good mods, but right now I totally
Yeah.
feel what you mean. Like I even tried modding too. Even I can do it, and
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Anyone
Chumm,
can.
you know.
Anyone
but
can
yeah.
mod.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Like I totally agree with everything you said there about like how the framework is really there. Like I tried my hand at wiki modding, and the power that you have is like really immense, because all of the
Oh, yeah.
like everything that you like that you want is already all the modifiers is like you said, you're changing out just small lines of text files, and that's the end of it, right? And
Yeah.
we had some like last episode we had some sort of conspiracy theory where, because like we were talking just about these things that, like you said, they stumbled on the finish line, and that's like why it just feels like somebody has put all of this intricate system in place of a very like very hardcore simulation, and then at the end somebody said, well, we can't have this like granularity. We need to simplify it and make it more abstract or something like that.
I do understand simplification because you want to make like a wider audience, right? Like I totally get
True.
that. We want to keep things simple. But I'll tell you this, okay? I know by complete coincidence, I know one person in real life who I'm friends with just from life who plays EU4, and he's terrible at it.
Oh,
In terms of,
really? Yeah.
they got to remember, like I consider myself,
Yeah,
I've done World Conquest, so I'm pretty okay at EU4. I'm not amazing, but I can do World Conquest. I've done One Faith, you know, whatever, right?
Yeah,
I've done
yeah.
some cool stuff.
Wow,
okay?
okay.
Now this guy is like,
Okay.
he'll play like Spain, and he'll be like, dude, oh my god, I conquered Portugal. I'm such a GIGACHAD.
Oh,
You know
no
what I mean?
way.
Like
Right.
he's very, very bad at the game,
Yeah,
but I love the guy.
yeah,
He's a guy I met in movies. He's just a friend of mine from film that just happened to play EU4, and I was like, yo, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Really?
But I'll tell you this, EU4 is a very complex game. But you know what he does?
Mm.
He just is like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I react to the game. Like trust me, the EU4, he has some of the DLC. He like picks and chooses his DLCs. I don't know how a person can even play EU4 without the DLC.
Yeah.
But he has like
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
of them, not all of them, you know. And he doesn't care that the game's really complicated. He has fun just like letting whatever happens in the game happen to him. And maybe he's a tiny niche audience that isn't like large in EU4 at all or something.
Mm.
But I'm telling you that
Mhm.
like most people are not us. Like most people are not trying to
Yeah.
understand the intricacies of the
Yeah.
game. They just
Oh,
are
no,
like, oh
that-
man, like
yeah.
the map goes burr, you know, like whatever, you know, it's fun. But
Right.
like,
Yeah.
but I think that you could make things more complicated and have the top level players really enjoy like breaking this shit down and like, you know, really just
Right.
hammering down the exact specifics. And then other players would be like, oh cool, my income went up. Okay. You know, like
Right.
not everyone's trying to do that. And I think that you're doing a big disservice to the longevity of your game by dumbing it down. Because
Yeah.
when the game is too simple, like I'll tell you this, I go on Vic 3 binges and then Vic 3 like I can't play because I just get so bored of it.
Yeah, I'm the
Luckily,
exact
Sphere of
same.
Influence actually has done a pretty good job of keeping me in the game. Like the Sphere of Influence was a big upgrade
Oh,
for
yeah.
Victoria 3. But like even then, sometimes I'm just like, bro, I can't play this game anymore. Like
Yeah.
I'm just going laissez-faire and building logging camps for the rest of my life. That's all I'm doing
Yeah.
for like the entire game because it's
Yeah.
not that difficult. Once you crack Vic 3, it's cracked wide open and the AI is totally incompetent. So you just win.
Mhm.
But like
Yeah.
the argument that like that like you need to have a wider audience is kind of dumb to me because what you need to have is you need to have tiers of gameplay, right?
Yeah.
Different people
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
different levels of the game where like you can still like EU4, if you're bad at the game, you can still enjoy it. If you're okay at the game, you still enjoy it. And if you're really good at the game, it's still enjoyable until you get I will say I've been in you guys might know Lambda, the EU4 streamer. He's a bit small, but he's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
important in the community. I've been in his community for a long time. Everyone in his Discord just talks about how much they hate EU4 and they still play it. But like, they
Really? What
yeah, that's how it
the
is at the top levels of EU4 where you're just like, man, like this game is like always the same. It's so easy, and then they'll go and like do another world conquest in like one day or whatever, this kind of
Wow.
stuff.
Wow.
But the point is that you can have the top level players who are gonna like maybe eventually burn out. But God, EU4 has been out for like more than a decade. Like Jesus Christ, they should be burning out by
Mm.
now.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And then you can have the middle tier gamers and the lower tier gamers. That's fine, but every step should be fun, right? That's the thing. Listen, like in CK3,
Right.
it's just like that. Some people in CK3 are like, dude, I got genius on my son. I'm having the best time of my life. Whereas for me, that's the
Yeah.
first step of my game is to get the good
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
it's but we're both having fun though. Either way, I'm still having fun
Right.
because I get to be creative by doing crazy stuff and making cool cultures and making cool faiths. And the lower tier player gets to have fun because like genetics and stuff is really enjoyable. It's fun at every step. The Victoria 3 feels like the beginning when you're really new is not very fun because you don't know what the fuck is going on and it doesn't give you a lot of good feedback. I mentioned
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
in my tutorial video for Belgium where I said that like you won't get feedback in Victoria 3. You're gonna build something and it was the correct thing to have done and you will have no idea. Like you're
Yeah,
gonna
that
be
is
like playing
100%
Belgium
true.
and you'll be like, oh dude, I built up all these iron mines. You're playing correctly, good job, but you'll never know it. You won't realize until
Right.
you just are and you won't realize because it's
Mhm.
hard to get feedback. In EU4, more development is more everything. It's more money, it's more
Mhm.
manpower. In CK3, more domain is more again more money. In Vic 3 though, like a profitable iron mine is like hard to quantify in terms of what you think you're doing. So beginning players have a
Mhm.
tough time. But then at the same time, the high level players are like, this shit's too simple. Like you're getting the worst of both
Yeah.
worlds somehow. You know? I
Yeah.
you hate to see it. I don't
That
know.
is so true.
Again, I don't have an answer. I don't have a direct answer to the problem, but like you gotta make it fun
Yeah.
at every stage for all the players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I kid you not. You summed up basically like every like. So we talked about this before with Toby last week, and like
Yeah.
one of the issues we had was there's not much to do once you really know the game. It's
Yeah.
basically the same thing. All you do is
Yes.
build and you wait, and like there's no like complex stuff to do. Like, and we were talking a little bit like even the small thing, like for example, adding tax like a tax slider or something akin to that, like
Mhm.
would change the game dramatically because the good players would know how to like manipulate the tax, the taxes and stuff to change the way your country wants to be changed, and then the easier the more casual players could just be like, oh, I'll just set it at this, and
Yeah,
I'm not gonna touch
absolutely.
it, for example, and like just small things like that would like small minute things that really lets you refine your country and the way your economy runs could go a long way, and that's what we talked about
Yeah.
last time. But it's like
Details are
and the
important,
system,
right? This is
right?
details. And that's what you need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and the systems are in the game, like
Mhm.
Technocrat always talks about, but
Mhm.
it's just
Mhm.
not there, which is unfortunate.
The game
Yeah,
does feel
the thing
like.
about
Oh, sorry.
stumbling at the finish line is a really good way to put it. I know I said it, so I feel like I'm stroking myself right now, but like stumbling at the
Oh,
finish
we're
line is how it is
soaking too.
because the framework is so good. It's so like it's such a good framework, and then they just don't put any creativity in it. It's like,
Yeah,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
you were
yeah,
right there, man. You were right there. Like you just need a couple of
and
things, just a couple buttons, just a
yeah,
couple journal entries with some buttons, just a couple of like, yeah, I talked about this. I mentioned this briefly in the collab I did with Smithy and Chumm, among others, that a little while ago, where I was like, I want to make a mod that's like not a genocide mod, but a mod that lets you
Yes.
do more with your pops, right? Like move them
right,
around
right.
No,
or
but that
like
would be quite
force their wages
nice.
down. Like it would be really interesting. I think. I don't want to call it like the genocide mod, but the thing is that if you take the most broad definition of genocide, like maybe you want to bleep that word, by the way, for the YouTube video. I don't know, but
Nah, it
No, it's
doesn't
fine.
matter.
That
We're
works
not
fine.
but
monetized.
the
Yeah.
yeah, but the like being able to, for example, governmentally depress wages on a certain culture, I don't know how useful it would be, but like you know, that would be a really interesting
No, I
thing to
totally
manage.
agree,
Is like
right.
what cultures you want to like force wages down on, what cultures you maybe want to incentivize. Like let's say you want to get immigrants from a certain culture group, you might like try to Imperative Realm kind of had this where you could like click buttons that would do bonuses to a certain culture to make them happier. But in Victoria
Right.
3, it's not just about happiness, it can be about like, you know, economic benefits for certain cultures or whatever, or economic deficits for other cultures.
Right.
Like things like, for example, if you were to depress, let's say you're playing France and you start depressing wages for like Occitans, right? Then maybe you can make more loyalists among your French pops and more radicals among your Occitans, but then you don't care about the Occitans,
Right.
you just want them to go away, right? Maybe you cause a mass immigration, or maybe you just outright like ban immigration of like
Right.
certain pop types in order to like stop in order to like the thing is you would never do this because in Victoria 3 all immigrants are equally valuable, you know,
Right.
Mm.
but
Right.
like but
Yeah.
like, you know,
Well,
implementing systems that make that make it so that you can get creative with the society simulator, because Victoria
Yeah.
3 is kind of like
Yes.
3 games in one, right? It's the economics, it's the society, and it's the diplomacy. The
True.
all of them are kind of lacking, I'd say, but like the society simulator is really lacking. Like
Yeah.
the fact that
Oh,
multiculturalism eradicates the relevance of all culture except for taboos and obsessions is crazy to me,
Mhm.
because I live in what you might call a multicultural country here in Canada, and I'll tell you this: like race is still an issue among like every person.
Mhm.
And like there's
Yeah.
no one who's like, oh yeah, dude, like I see no race at all. It's like no, you'll always see it, even though the government is obviously very multicultural, and I love Canada for that. But like, dog, in like the 19th century, you're telling me like you can have like a country that has absolutely zero discrimination of any kind
Yeah.
whatsoever?
Right.
Yeah.
Like no,
Right.
no. You know, like even just the
Right.
fact that you can get to racial segregation in Europe so easily, and then you can have French people welcoming Germans into the country. Like, no, I don't think that would
Yeah.
happen under Napoleon III. You know, I don't imagine that would be
Right.
very doable. Or even total separation, allowing Muslims to come to America. Now, listen, you know that's a controversial topic, but 19th century America welcoming like
Right.
Muslim migrants, I don't see it. I hate to tell you, I don't see it, man. Don't see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just a lot of things where some granularity in the society simulator would be amazing, and like I have this brainchild of a mod in mind, but I'm not ready to like sit down and go make it yet. But like this creating interactions among pops and like bonuses and negatives for who you
Yes.
discriminate and stuff. I don't know, like because it would just create
Yes.
creativity. Like I mentioned
Yeah.
creativity in my sphere of influence review. That's the lifeblood of all the Paradox games, really. People think they're like super simulators. They're actually like art canvases. Okay, all of them.
Yes.
Where you express yourself and you create something that's unique to you. All of them are like that. And Victoria 3 isn't like that right now. It's very much just like you will go laissez-faire, you will build lumber camps, and then you will be successful.
Right.
And then maybe you'll get creative with your power block, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
you'll do.
I mean, Chumm, I think was it that lifted the idea that like we discussed that you could tax different
Right,
different
yeah.
income groups or professions
Yeah.
differently. I mean,
Yep.
like we're talking, we constantly keep returning to this framework, right? But the game has in place a really good system of what like clout, political power, political clout is very
Yeah.
determined on your wage, it's determined on your literacy, it's determined on your how much money you make and stuff like that. That's why
Yep.
that's why one of the reasons moving into better production methods is just not it's not that it produces more stuff. It's also that, it goes from capitalist
demographics.
Yeah.
capitalist owned. It's like it's machinists instead of laborers, for example, which
It's
is
engineers, man. I love
yeah.
engineers.
right.
Mhm.
Like
They're the best.
yeah, but like that's one of the reasons. Like, so you have this interesting system which plays with income, and it plays with different demographics in your nation. Why don't let the player just control those more? Because now wages now is determined by average pay in the state, and it's determined by profession. Professions have a wage multiplier or something like that.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's the only way the player really can interact with that system, which is a really well done system, but the player lacks really control. It's like,
Right.
well, I screwed up. Now my average wage is too high, or it's too low. I want to be higher in the state, but I can't really affect it. Whatever.
Yeah.
So you could
yeah.
easily just
Like
have
the only control over wage you have is worker protections. That's the only thing you can really do. Is that one law where it creates an institution and you can increase minimum wages. But remember, it's across the entire country for all people. I'm like, dog.
Yeah.
I would love to foster a group of loyalists by explicitly raising minimum wages on one culture, and in so doing,
Yes.
cause radicals in another culture. Like this would be a really, because you know, I had a hypothetical in my head when before Supremacy came out. I said, imagine if you're playing Britain and then you conquer Egypt, let's say, and you're dealing with a lot of like radical issues there because like the Egyptians are like a lot of the, they're not very well off and not doing very well.
Right,
In current
right.
Victoria 3, they will always become loyal because your market's better. So they'll have cheaper goods and that's that. They won't care. But in
Yeah,
reality, like I think that the Egyptian pops, they just like radicals from discrimination is so tiny in Victoria 3 that it doesn't really matter that much. People talk about it, but
yeah,
I've never really felt the effects of discrimination causing radicals. Like it causes like a little bit here and
yeah,
there, but
yeah.
either way, like the only thing that will happen from it that's important is that the Egyptians make less wages because they're discriminated, and that's like a thing that will affect their standard of living. But like, what about their aspirations for freedom? You know, like what about more like nuanced issues? It's not always just about
Right.
money. Like Village of Victoria 3
Yeah.
reduces every interest of every person to how much
Mm.
money they're making. Like
Yeah.
you'll never have an experience where you conquer the Zulus as Britain, where like the Zulus are a thorn in you. It's just that you just give them jobs and now they're happy. They'll never seek freedom ever again. And it's like,
Yeah.
really? You know, really? Like, are we really
Right.
gonna
That's
just
so true.
nobody ever wants freedom? They just want money. Like, you can just buy your way. Like, because in theory, in Victoria 3, you just buy your way to success for everything.
Yeah.
But this is an era of
Mhm.
immense ideology, right? Where like people like people don't care about money. Now, obviously, a lot of times material conditions will inform your radicalism. You know, and real, it's true. But like some people are just ideologues, and and I think that should be simulated better. And it's like, no, nothing like that. I thought about experiments. I was like, dude, imagine like if you would have to compromise with the people you conquered by letting them locally work their businesses, but then of course there's no way to give people local control over their businesses, which really pissed me off. I was really
Yeah.
hoping for like some collectivized button, and what I had in mind was that based on your economic law, you could have only a certain percentage of your businesses be collectivized, because then you could have like you might make the Egyptians a little bit happier by freeing them from the Ottoman shackle or whatever, by like, or I guess the Egyptian Khedivate shackle, by like giving them control of their businesses, and now they're loyal, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be loyal. Why would they be, right? It's like to me there was this opportunity for this really interesting mechanic that just wasn't realized at all,
Right.
because you can't even collectivize unless you go total communist. You have to be like
Yeah.
a full out communist to allow any kind of worker owned business, except for the ones that start at the game start locally
Right.
owned. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, dog, I did research for that video. I looked up the first worker cooperative. It was in Britain in like the 1810s. There was like a clothing manufacturer that was cooperatively owned. I'm like, dog, there's historical precedent for not much, but a very small number of cooperatively owned businesses. Not to mention that like in overseas colonies, like you're not always going to have like some actual capitalist in London running it. You might have a proxy capitalist who's like a local that runs it for you, who's like corrupt as fuck or something, whatever. Again, these systems aren't simulated, but like there's so much nuance you can have here that's just lost.
Yeah.
And it's upsetting. And that nuance needs to come for creativity's sake. Like you need to have just, even if it's less effective, you might say that the meta would still be laissez-faire. Like I don't even care if the meta would still be laissez-faire, just never do anything different. Like for example, workers' protections in theory can actually be kind of bad for your country because the minimum wages make everything make less profit. But like I'm role playing, man. I want my workers to make more money.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting workers' protections on. And that to me is like one example of like interesting creativity where it's like, yeah, I can help raise minimum wages through the state. But I really think that like minimum wages should be controllable, maybe not from game start, but maybe after like socialism. Like you can tie it to technology. I think that'd be fine if you tied a lot of the higher level systems to technology, because I think it'd be cool to unlock new like government interactions through tech. Yeah, like as you come up with new ideas of how to run the country, or even you could tie it to like ideologies for your head of state, which would mean like if your king is okay with it, then you can raise minimum wages, or if you're president, if you're a president, or your voting laws. There's all kinds of ways you can tie it in. Like I'm not saying it has to be like a whole new screen, like because people talk like another tab on the left hand side, right? I'm not saying like a new button that's like government interactions, but just you can slide these systems in attached to other systems, and it would be fine, I think. But
yeah,
I don't know why they don't. I don't know.
I think I totally agree with you, by the way, because my previous video, I was playing Britain, and my whole goal was to make the capitalists as rich as possible. Raise the standard of living. And the fact that I can't set even if I 100% own like all the, let's say the factories in this one state, it's all government owned. I can't set the wages, which I think as a government
you should be able to.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And for example, like I want to tax or not tax. I want to make their wages as low as possible, for example, so the capitalists get all the dividends, for example.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can't do that is it takes away. Like you said, I feel like the granularity would be so much potential there. It just adds so much more. And I totally love what you said, where you could add in like in different texts. You know, you have to research this, and even to take it further, like I know there's like laws, for example, for this. Like for example, like minimum wage you were talking about. It would definitely tie in so well. Like the mechanics would tie in so well. Where if you pass minimum wage, you can't set the wages lower than this and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
like you said, it would just allow for so much creativity. And
Yeah.
dude, it's frustrating. I totally feel what you mean there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you could have like strikes if there's if your
Yeah.
wages are too low, and then like your economy would just shut down if your government's not paying enough money to people
Yeah.
and stuff. Like that would be
That
so
would be amazing.
dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, strikes are in the game, but again, in the form of a journal
In
entry and a
event.
random
Yes.
event with no
Yes.
buttons.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
general strike exists, and it sucks when it happens because it is a pretty ungodly modifier. It's like I forget what it's like a huge throughput negative if you fail to like appease the strike. But the
Mhm.
problem is that what the strike asks for will be like implement worker protections or something, and it's
Yeah.
like okay, but this won't raise your wages unless it's worker protections first of all. But they want
Mhm.
worker protections, not sorry, they want the workers' rights or whatever. The one that's like doesn't give minimum wage, they want that one. So if you give the other one, they won't accept it, and it's like
Yeah,
bro, I'm gonna
it's
give you
ridiculous.
more
Yeah.
benefits, but it's because the journal entry is
Yeah.
so locked in that they will only take the one law and nothing else. But either way, like yeah, again, the strike shouldn't be a journal entry or a random event. They should be like a system in the game.
Yeah.
Right? That would make a lot more sense to me. Like how corruption is in EU4. Like corruption in EU4 is simultaneously
yeah.
a set of events. Like some events in EU4 simulate corruption, but it's also a number in the game that will increase or
Yeah.
decrease based on what's going on. Like it
Yeah.
should be like that, where like your pops should, if they're radical enough, strike, and then you have to give them higher minimum wages, and if you don't, then your economy collapses, obviously. Or hey, you can fucking shut them down, man. Like send this if you have
Yeah.
high police institutions, let's say,
Yes.
then you can like break the strike, and then you can keep them poor,
Yeah.
right? You know,
That would
that
be
would
so
give, even
cool.
though I'm pretty sure objectively the best play would be to raise the wages in terms of
Oh,
like
yeah,
Oh
Victoria's great
yeah.
success. But I want the ability to play wrong. In
Yeah,
ways fun and
Yeah,
unique,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Dude, that's my
That's what I
whole
want, yeah.
channel, dude. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no,
Like,
and I love you for that, dude. I have been trying. Listen, I'm gonna stroke your ego real quick, Chum. Okay, I have
Oh,
been
yes,
thinking of
please.
ways to copy your style a little bit for myself, not like rip your whole fucking videos off, but like
yeah.
you know, think about
just
oh,
take
can I do
them,
something?
yeah.
Can I do something crazy stupid in Victoria 3 like how Chum does? And then it sounds insulting, but I mean like something that doesn't. It's not
No,
even
it's true. It's
like when
true.
like I saw you put out like a short or whatever of you building like 1,000 vehicle manufacturers
Yeah.
in whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm like that's
Yeah,
so
it was-
ridiculously stupid. But like, yeah, it's really funny and it's creative.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was like a terrible choice. It obviously got you like
Oh, yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
But you know, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to have more ability to do stuff like that. And obviously, like a creative player will always find a way to do something creative. Like for me, the most creative I got was definitely like that France assimilation run, where all I focused on was like
Yeah.
immigration and assimilation. But like,
Mhm.
you know, I still played the game like pretty much objectively correctly. I still went laissez-faire. I still like
Yeah.
formed a sovereign empire and like made the whole world my fucking subject. It's it'd be a lot cooler to have actual dedicated systems for that kind of creativity, not just like us grasping at straws for creativity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It made
No, I
content
totally
creation
get it.
so much easier as well.
Well, even just
Well,
making it
even-
more
yeah.
fun, you know.
Yeah.
It'll make it way
It does
more
make content
fun.
creation more easy. Like for example, in CK3, I never run out of ideas. There's always something interesting to do
True.
in CK3.
Yeah.
But in Vic 3, like I gotta steal from Chum to find some cool ideas, and it makes the game less fun because the game would be more fun if there was more creativity. Absolutely.
Well, the thing is also what Chumm does. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing, right? Like in Vic, you're incentivized to just have everything yourself. You want coal mines and iron mines and sulfur mines and all
Total
of the stuff.
autarky.
Yeah. You want a rainbow state where 80% of your economy is, and all the other stuff just gets whatever it's left. Instead, you're not incentivized to like they did some like efforts in the whole company thing where like you can decide that this particular building gets a throughput bonus and you get the whatever.
Yeah.
But like you could easily just go into more like, well, not only do I produce more of this than everybody else, I produce better, more attractive stuff than everybody
goods
else.
quality would be nice.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to
goods-
implement it though.
Yeah,
I've
We
heard of that
spoke
before.
about this last time.
I
yeah.
don't know. I've heard people talk. I won't dwell on it then because you guys already talked about it last episode. But like, I don't know what you could do to implement like quality of goods. Maybe like better quality goods give a throughput bonus on whatever business buys them. You know,
Yeah.
so that would be like the simplest thing I could think of. But that would be so lame, right? You want something more creative. You know?
But yeah, like, but it's also just not. It's just not like more stuff, or it's also maybe just a reputation, right? There's something they just demand. Like my say cars. We talked about this last episode, right? But like my. I don't know if my cars are better than German cars, whatever. But but it has a reputation. Volvos, like they have a reputation, so the demand is higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like sort of adding. Because
Trade
right now,
with
demand is
goods.
basically just price, and like it's basically just a
Yeah,
supply demand curve.
Yeah.
And but you
every
couldn't.
good
But
is
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
every
Go
good
ahead.
is. No, sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay, basically just it's all just supply and demand, but in real life, like there are things to account for, like even just thinking even more applicable to like every person. So when you go to the grocery store, you might buy more expensive food if the ingredients are something that matches your desires better. Like some people
Yeah.
are like eat gluten free, some people are like vegetarians, like, and this is represented through two taboos in the game. But like
Mhm.
quality of food, like people will buy, like better quality food. In Vic 3, that's represented as buying more food. Capitalists don't
Yeah.
buy better food; they buy more groceries, even though they're eating probably the same number of calories. If you were to think of it like reality,
Real
they're
life.
just
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're spending more. They're spending more because they're just buying better food. Is the way you might abstract it in your own head. But it'd be cool to again, instead of letting me have to do the creativity on my end, how about we make it a system in the game, right? That's sort
Exactly.
of the point I always
Yeah.
go back to. Is like why do I have to do the work? Let the game give me a system for it,
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and you already have. I mean, you're kind of incentivized to do stacks and builds because you do have an economy of scale bonus. So the game, on the one hand, incentivizes you to like, well, build this building tall, but on the other hand, it also incentivizes you to just have all of the. You should be a self-sufficient closed system. The trade system
Yeah.
is awful. Don't interact with it.
Yeah.
Just build everything that you need in the now since the local market changes, preferably in the same state, not even in the same in your own country. It should all be in the same state. Like you should easily you should be able to like, okay, I'm gonna focus on this particular. I'm gonna build, say, I'm gonna do a trade focused nation instead of doing
you're
like
just, you're just kneecapping yourself if you do that. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Unfortunately.
Because it doesn't work. The trade,
Yeah.
you can't do exports the
Oh,
way you
that's so
would.
true.
Yeah,
Well, the big
you could,
problem. So one thing is that the AI will just never generate enough demand to make trade good for you.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
for
yeah.
example, the idea behind like an export economy is like, let's take for example the Sikh Empire. They don't have a lot of industry, but they produce a shit ton of like potentially of like silk and dyes, right? But they don't
Yeah.
have the clothing
Yeah.
manufacturers for it, so you export the silk and the dyes to like Britain. But then Britain's a bad example because they have local silk and dyes through India. So let's say
Yeah.
France instead. You export to France, but like France will generate enough demand to maybe create enough buy orders to buy like
Yeah.
one or two dye plantations worth of dyes. Like
Yeah.
maybe. And even then, you're going to have to pay for the convoys, and that makes it completely undoable. First of all, because you're landlocked. But let's say you conquer Sindh. Like, if you max out the ports in Sindh, you'll have enough convoys to do maybe, I'm being really generous here, maybe like 10 dye plantations worth of dyes. And
Yeah.
like that you cannot run an economy on that. Whereas in real life, like some countries are built on exporting and nothing else.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
that's all they
So
do.
yeah, like I was playing a game of Belgium, and I was basically building cars only and like trading cars to everybody.
Yeah.
And which I literally had a rage quit because like I was trying to export cars and everyone had such high, because I was the only one building cars basically, and everyone had such high demand. But the way the trade system works is nobody would level up the trade level
Yes.
just because.
Because you can't so think like this, right? This happens with businesses too. You subsidize them to start because the demand is like
Yeah.
wonky at first, right?
Yeah,
So you subsidize
yeah.
them to get to normalize the economy, right? You can't do that
Exactly,
with trade.
yeah.
So for example, in Britain, there may be some hyper rich capitalists who would love to buy cars, but they aren't
Yeah.
buying cars right now. So when you trade them, the price is dog shit. So
Yeah.
your trade route won't level up, and the
Yeah.
capitalists won't like. By the time the capitalists start buying some of the cars, the trade route still isn't leveling up. And they're only going to
Yeah.
buy a number that's sufficient for that trade route. They're not going to demand. But the thing is that in Vic 3, demand is the same as a buy order, and that's the problem.
Mhm.
The,
Yes.
the
Yes.
demand on the in Britain for cars is not different from the buy orders. So for example, in reality in Britain, there may be like thousands of demand for cars and then like 5 buy orders because there's not many cars available. They're just not there. But
Yeah.
if the demand was simulated separately, then you can make a trade route that would fulfill the theoretical demand, but it's just not there. And because of
Exactly.
that difference alone causes trade to be useless because demand
Yeah.
and buy orders are one and the same.
Right.
That's the problem.
See, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one thing I wish you could just trade how much you want.
Yeah.
Like you can just
Yeah,
put it in
just
order.
pick a
Like, I
number.
want to
Just pick
trade,
a
yeah,
number.
like I want to trade 20 cars, for example, and that would be a way better system than how it is right now. But like you
Yeah.
said, it's
Not to mention, I've done like trade focused runs. I've gotten trade routes to level 100, which is the cap. At that point, you can't go any higher.
yeah,
It tells
Yeah.
you in the
yeah.
tooltip. It'll say this trade route has max level. I think I sent a picture of it in this Discord's. I sent a picture when I was talking about with Genos. Genos didn't know. I taught him something. I was so proud. I taught Genos something. Trade routes can cap.
Oh, he didn't know.
Which means he didn't know.
Oh.
He was like, I didn't. He's like, whoa, really? I was like, yeah. When you get to level 100 on a trade route, it no longer
Yep.
it caps. Now it took a
No.
lot of work
Yep.
for me to get that cap, but I was exporting
Yeah.
a level 100 trade route of clothes and opium to Qing, and it was
Yeah.
making mad money, but I could have just made the demand locally. Like it would have been a lot better to make the demand. It was costing me thousands of convoys, by the way, which is expensive.
Mhm.
The cost of the convoys, because remember, all shipping is government in this in Vic 3. There's no private shipping.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's no FedEx. Okay, there's only
FedEx.
American mail service.
Dang.
What is it? I forget what it's called in America, but the American Postal Service, whatever.
You
You
yes.
can't you have so you spend money on the convoys for a trade route that would have been better served just serving your own people. So all right, sure.
Yeah.
It was fun to do. It was fun to see like exporting. I was exporting like 4,000 clothes to Qing. Like that's
Yeah,
I'd never seen that much export before. But it was a complete misplay. But it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, especially since the local changes. There's so many steps on the way that loses, even if you're on free trade. So there's no tariffs. You're going to pay for the convoys. You're going to pay for and then
The local
you have
price impact.
yeah. The darn mappy just makes it so that like the mappy like it makes it so that even goods in your own country is not like viable to be shifted between each other, right? And then so you have like it's essentially nerfed twice. So it's nerfed when you're selling it. You have you're selling it for cheaper, and the person buying it is buying it for higher. So it's get nerfed twice, and at that point you are running such a loss that like this is never even like no throughput bonus is going to make up for this. So you're not like seen.
Yeah. And to me, the most egregious thing is the convoy cost. Like at the end of the day, I'm directly paying out of my government budget for those convoys to generate money that is like not at all paying off the convoys in terms of just the raw money. Like in terms of the profitability on the level 100 opium export to China, which is like the best trade route you can get, basically. Like opium to an opium obsessed country with like millions of buyers. Okay, that's the best you're gonna get.
Right.
The profits were not covering the cost of the convoys, but I did it for the memes. But it was not covering the cost of the convoys. Absolutely not. And the money wasn't even going to me. It was going to like the people in the trade center, right? And they're getting taxed like a measly percentage because I'm on low taxes, obviously. And then they're like using it to buy goods that are like not nearly covering the cost of the convoys themselves. Just the convoys, let alone like whatever lost opportunity, because we talk opportunity cost, a big thing too. I could have built a lot of other stuff. Now, to be fair, opium is one of the better goods to build, but you take my point though, that I could have been making other buildings that could have used like goods instead of spending it on like ports and opium plantations just to send it somewhere else. Like it just it's a ridiculous system. And even you can't even make like an import economy very effectively. Like you can't even like rely, like you shouldn't do this, just because it's bad, it's unsafe, but like relying on, for example, like let's say you're playing Belgium, you have a trade-off for dyes with the Netherlands at the game start because you don't have any dyes locally. Like you are incentivized to as quickly as possible secure a local source of dyes and like get off of the Netherlands. But I would love to be like, I'm gonna be completely dependent on my trade partner, the Netherlands. If they like decide to break off the agreement, I'm fucked. That'd be cool just to create like a system of diplomacy in a way. Even in multiplayer, it could be a thing, but it's like no, you cannot possibly rely on imports for anything because the number will be so small. You can't. Even if you subsidize trade route, because you remember when you import, you can take on the trade route at a loss because you can just subsidize the trade route, but it won't level up unless it decides it wants to. You can't artificially You can't
No.
artificially increase the level of the route.
Yeah,
So-
no, only profitable routes level up. So it's
Yeah.
so you need to import from like 100 countries if you want to make that happen, which is
Yeah,
it's-
and like they
it's
have to make
ridiculous.
100 times more than you, and
Right.
then maybe
Yeah.
you'll get like a level 10 route, which will help you support like 3 textile mills. Amazing.
Yeah.
Or I can
Yeah.
conquer
Yeah.
one state in Vietnam and have more dies than I'd ever need for the entire game. If I'm like Belgium, I mean. If you're
Yeah.
playing like a small
Yeah.
country, you know, like bam, that's it.
Yeah.
one state, or like hoping for this trade route that does not work. All right, we have something to conquer, something to
Yeah.
imperialize. I guess the game does a good job of justifying European imperialism, but I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I totally know what they're going for, right? They want
Yeah.
you to be colonizing. They want you to search out Africa for the scramble for Africa. I need those coal
Yeah.
mines. I need those plantations. I need those rubber. I need that. So I totally know why they went, but like it's you want it to be as an economy simulator. You want to be able to like I specialize. I'm the IKEA of this planet. Like I am
Yeah.
my furniture is the best. It just
Yeah.
that is what I do. Instead of just having everything in your, and it also incentivizes like the only nations that are fun to play are already big nations that have
Yeah.
none, not necessarily big nations, but nations that have like resources. It's
Yeah.
it's not like it's fun to play, say released Poland or released Ukraine or something like that. That's fun because you have all
Right.
of the rainbow states you want. But if you
Yeah.
play some nation in whatever,
Yeah, playing like
that-
Go
that-
Beer sucks because you get
Yeah.
nothing. You know, like
Right,
yeah,
right.
like even though it could be fun to play these smaller nations, it's like, well, you have no resources, so the first thing you have to do is conquer to find resources, and then you just resume the regular gameplay loop. Like one thing that I've talked about is how Victoria 3 is a straight line, and who you pick just determines where on the line you are.
Right.
So like if you're
True.
playing as like Ethiopia or something, like say you're playing like it's like you're just starting at a way further back part of the line, where eventually you'll catch up to like the iron, coal, steel, engines, railways. You'll eventually catch up to that like gameplay loop. Whereas if you play Britain, you're just
Yeah.
already there. Like basically you're just
Yeah.
picking where you start. You're not having a fundamentally different gameplay. You know,
No.
you just all your like. But whereas in like EU4 or CK3, like who you play radically alters how you're playing. Like when
Right.
you play a Scandinavian in CK3, you're raiding, and that's a different gameplay loop than like if
Yeah.
you're playing a French person who's like marrying and stuff. And they even added again CK3 with the creativity, with the culture traditions. If you're playing a French character and you have the chivalry culture, you're romancing random people for renown because you're being rewarded for just getting into like romance schemes. And it's like, yeah, now you're playing a different game than even a German is because Germans don't have
Yeah.
chivalry. So it's like,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
crazy. Like you have even though they're both feudal, you have a different game because the culture traditions. And whereas Vic 3, like it's the complete other end of that issue where every country is the same. You're just picking where you start.
Yeah.
In terms of like tech is the best way to abstract that, I guess. Like obviously like the weaker countries have less tech. So you're just catching up. You're playing catch up the whole game rather than
Right.
playing a different game.
Yeah.
I know we talked about like that we were kind of okay behind stuff behind tech, but like I recently tried to play like I think it was Madagascar, the Merino Kingdom.
I played them
And-
too.
Oh.
Right,
suck.
and
Oh, wow.
yeah, it
Wow.
sucks because
It's
you
My
don't.
condolences.
Yeah, you have no literacy, so you have you have to like you spend the first year just raising literacy and just inventing academics. The thing is that it like universities are actually hidden behind tech by academia.
Yeah.
So you can't even start just say I wanted to go just balls to the walls. I just want to do I want to run a massive deficit just educating my people. You can't
Yep.
even do that because that's hidden behind tech.
Idiot tech, yeah. You don't even have the tech for universities yet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes like a self-fulfilling. Like I can't even make the gameplay choices of just making something different because choices is unlocked through tech, and I can't make any other choices than to unlock tech.
Yeah, it's because Madagascar starts at like the very beginning of the line, right?
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
even
yeah.
have the ability to move along the line yet. And then once you get that, then you can start moving. But by the time you do, it'll be like 1850. And you spent like because I did a Marina Kingdom run. I recorded it thinking like YouTube video on it, but then it was the most boring thing I've ever done in my life, so I didn't make a video of it.
Ooh,
But like
yeah.
you're sitting there and like you're making maybe some like lumber camps, and you don't even get qualifications for like machinists. Like you have no qualifications at all.
Right.
And you're just sitting there like waiting. And then after like 20 years, you're like, now I can start making like one university, and I have like 14 construction points, maybe 16 if I'm lucky, and it's gonna take me like a
Oh.
year for every university, and I'm
That's
just like,
rough.
yep, this is my life. Yep, I'm really having fun here, and
Yeah.
you don't even have like the tech to make like a navy yet. Like that's how far back you can't even make
Wow.
like a navy until you get a couple. I think it's like 1 or 2 techs in the military section to make like a navy, so you can't even invade anyone. And you
Wow,
have
that's
shitty armies, so
crazy.
you can't even like you're just sitting there,
Exactly.
and you have like I think you just have I don't remember. I think you have like iron. I think you have iron in Madagascar. I can't remember. But even if you could use the iron though, you don't have the qualifications for it. So you're just sitting there like, yeah, I can't even employ this. Like I don't have capitalists. I don't have like I don't have
Anyone.
engineers. I got nothing. Like I have to sit here and wait. And I used the promote social mobility decrees for the whole time. Like,
Right.
and you get to like
Yeah.
I hit like 20% literacy, and I was like, yo, sick. You start with like 4%, some crazy low number in
Yeah,
Madagascar. It's like nothing.
something like that. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, they gave I don't know if you noticed this when you played Technocrat. They gave flavor to Madagascar. You have your first ruler
Really?
has a modifier that increases
Right,
mortality
yeah.
on all your pops for a bit. I don't know if you noticed it, but there's
Yeah.
like a button, there's a decision you can click to end like a tradition of where they would like drink poison or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, they took the time to implement like a unique modifier, completely unique to Madagascar, and a unique decision for it, and nothing else.
Right.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they must have had some person who was like, oh, like I have an idea, and they were like, oh yeah, put it in, whatever, and then they didn't do anything else. And
Right.
I'm like, dog,
Yeah.
what the hell, man? Like, you should did no one try playing it? Like, would anyone sit and play Madagascar and realize that after
Oh,
25
no
years
way.
you've done nothing and be
Yeah,
like,
there's no
no
way
way.
anyone's played it.
like, yeah, like,
I mean, so-
dude, what?
I mean, I get restricting stuff behind tech because like tech should have like a reason. You should be looking forward to stuff and like that. But like restricting player agency, you should be able to like
Oh,
even
yeah.
though that it's crazy, you should be able to just like I'm gonna just mass educate everybody and at the state expense or something like that. Like you should even if it's not optimal, if it's like in EU4, you can take like 100% like ahead of time penalty for tech if you want. It's like you're severely penalized because mana is like the monarch point is that's your livelihood, right?
It's everything.
But but like you can do that if you really want that military tech because I'm gonna fight the Ottomans. You can do that. That to me is core to any like any map painter, any custom nation builder, is that you should be able to do suboptimal choices because this is how I express, like, this is my nation. If I want 100% literacy at the cost of everything else, I should be able to do it, but I can't.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, one way that I would say you could implement that is if you just made universities privatizable, right? I mean, they do that already, right? It'd be if you could have like if you could spend government money on education that isn't necessarily through universities, but just like there's the decree, I guess, but you could literally just have like a slider would be really cool. But I feel like Paradox doesn't like sliders anymore. They're all about buttons now.
They moved away from
like,
it.
Yeah, you can do like an education slider. I mean, I know Vic 2 has an education slider, so like Vic 2 really has that. They have the education slider.
Oh, really?
Which you could just do that at the government expense, and then if you build a university, that would be private education where rich enough pops can go get even more literacy. But the thing is, universities don't give literacy; they give qualifications. It's different.
Right.
But you could tie literacy to universities, whatever. Like that could be a private thing, because I think that it would be reasonable for like even a very backwards like Madagascar kingdom to be like, you know what, we should learn how to read, and that shouldn't be tied behind like, well, we have to get like a PhD system going. It's like, no, let's just because universities are like a very like academic thing, right? We don't necessarily need that. We just need like, can we get people to like learn how to read? Like, can we just do that? Like, that should be like a government expense. And there's public schools, but you're not going to be able to pass public school as you're not going to be able to pass the institution as the Marina Kingdom.
No,
it's not going to happen.
No, it's gonna take like 19.
And another like way you could make countries like Madagascar fun to play is like, well, obviously fix the trade system because Madagascar is primarily going to be like a export focused economy, right? Exporting like food and cows and whatnot. And I think that's something that Victoria 3 needs to model way better, is because that's the thing in real life. Countries have primary sectors, tertiary sectors, all these different sectors. And for the most part, undeveloped countries are basically like rural exporters. And it's just unviable in the way Victoria 3 is now. And it just makes those type of countries not fun. Because basically all you want to...
I'll be back in 1 second. My partner just woke up. I'm going to go say good morning and stuff.
All right.
All right.
Of course.
Keep going, though. I'll just be a few minutes, if even that.
Yeah. So basically, like, it's just I feel like it's not fun because, like Tarkus always says, is there's a one way to do things. You build logging camps as Madagascar,
Yeah.
and you just wait. You just wait, and there's no other like, oh, I'm gonna get rich off of exporting food, because that's
Right.
what I have, and like,
Yeah.
no, it's you have to wait because food is bad and you can't
Yeah,
export it and get
and
rich
like
off that.
industrialization is the only way. And like they
Yeah.
have, I mean, with Brazil, they did the whole Pedro stuff, and so they have the fundamentals for a cash crop based economy. You like
Yeah.
if you have agrarianism, so the aristocrats invest in even more cash crops, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So and the cash
Yeah,
crops
yeah.
are pretty like they are pretty good at generating GDP. So you have
Right.
like the fundamentals of it. It's just that, well, you can't export like the trade systems are
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, that's the
I don't know.
issue.
You just feel
That's the
isolated
issue.
within the game. I think we
Yeah,
said
you
this before,
basically
but you just don't feel like you're playing with other countries, and you just sort of feel isolated and stuck in whatever you're
Oh yeah.
doing.
Oh yeah, and
Wait.
like the thing is, like Tarkus, I hit the 100 level cap for trade. I was
Oh, did
doing it
you?
in the Egypt video, yeah, and I was doing wheat only. Literally, I was building wheat farms, and
Good channel.
I hit the I hit the cap. Like I traded 100 to Britain, 100 levels, and I traded 100 levels to Russia. That's how much wheat I was making. And the thing is, I think trade is different from back then, though. I might be wrong, but I feel like trade is different, but and it's worse. I feel like, but the fact is, you can't
There was
create
no
a
Mappy back
viable.
then, so it was more efficient
Yeah.
back then.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
we got
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mappy. That's the
True.
difference.
Yeah. So I think that like it's just not viable to have different sorts of economies. Like you
right.
can't be a rural exporter just because that's not how the game wants you to play.
I
Yeah,
mean,
every country has to like go down the same industrialization path, right?
Yeah.
So I
Right.
remember
Exactly. Yeah.
when the game first came out, I told my friends in real life because they were watching me like play the game, like and they don't play map games, but they just wanted to see what I was doing with YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was telling them how like, dude, every economy just becomes like iron, coal, steel, motors, railways. That's like every
Yeah.
country has to do that. There's
Yeah.
no way around it because eventually you're going to hit an infrastructure problem, so you have to get railways. And I know you can use ports to increase infrastructure a bit because ports give a little bit of infrastructure,
So
but
useless
it's
though.
so minuscule.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh
minuscule compared to
yeah.
the railway. And then the railways aren't even profitable. And the thing is, I've learned
Yeah.
now how to make them more profitable, but railways are like surprisingly underpowered. Although, now that I'm better at the game, I do know how to actually make them like somewhat useful because you can, they can end up being quite profitable if you like min max, if you pay attention and really like
Right.
select your production stuff well. But back in my day, I mean, transportation was a global good. So you can make like 100 railways
Yeah.
in New York and the transportation was across the whole country, same with electricity.
True, true.
But it's funny because making electricity and railways local goods makes more sense, but it's such a pain in the ass to play. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it
Totally.
sucks to play, but it's more realistic. But like, dude, I think that the fun is kind of more important than the realism. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
But like you were away when we talked about this, but I mean the game kind of has some fundamentals. They try to push you forward that it's like they're dingling the possibility of having a cash crop economy like in front of you because you have agrarianism, you have like cash crops are kind of high value, and you like they try to do some stuff with like exporting coffee with the whole Brazil and Pedro update and stuff like that. So they kind of want it to be a thing, but like they didn't support it enough. Like they really need to make like export oriented stuff be viable for that to be a thing.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the Colossus of the South. Now that you bring it up, I mean, you're right that like they created journal entries and stuff to incentivize a kind of gameplay that is not supported by the game at all. Like it's
Yeah.
when I was playing Colossus of the South stuff, I got into it pretty late because I was really when Colossus of the South came out, I was on a huge like Vic 3 downturn. I didn't want to play it at all. I was so bored of it. But later on, I went to go play Brazil, and I was like, dude, this coffee journal entry is crazy. Like, you have to. It's like
it is.
It's like really hard. I was like, this is really hard to do because the game is not set up in a way where you can just like mass produce one good and ever do anything good with it. You're just wasting your time making like 100 coffee plantations. I was like, damn, am I bad at the game or is this poorly made? I think it was poorly made, unfortunately.
I mean, you have to have in theory, they have the fundamentals for it because, like, if you have agrarianism, like, you will have rich aristocrats will reinvest in your economy on their own and stuff like that. But like, they need to be able to. So, well, for it to be supported with the trade system and all that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
for it
but it's
to,
just
for,
not,
for it to
yeah.
work, no, it's not. It's still the only viable is to do industrialize and to do all that stuff. But
Like total autarky. Every game is a total autarky, which if you don't in economics, autarky is when you have no reliance on trade whatsoever. Like you just have a
right,
completely
yeah,
state,
Yeah.
like not necessarily state run, but like everything is produced locally and then sold locally.
Yeah.
So no
Right.
external or internal trade. Like that is like every Victoria 3 run. It
Mhm.
always ends up that way eventually because it's the not just the best way to play. It's not just a matter of like say optimization. It's the only way to play. Because
Yeah.
if it was just about optimization, it wouldn't actually be that big of a deal. Because like maybe you could say it's the meta, but like there's other viable ways. There's no viable way to play with trade. We've talked about we repeated it over and over again now, but there's no viable way to play with trade. It's just you just can't. You have to be an autarky. You gotta do North Korean juche in every run. That's how it is.
Yeah. But what do you guys feel about the idea of construction being privatized?
I would love that.
That would be nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm already cooking about ever since Tarkus said that shipping should be private and should be making an income. Like I'm already
you're
cooking a mod
thinking
in my
it,
head.
yeah.
Like I'm doing.
Uh,
It
No,
shouldn't be that hard
it
to
would
do
make
either.
total sense for convoys to be a good that can be sold and bought and like shipping to be a thing. The only problem is
Yeah.
like then how does it interact with the convoy system already in the game where it's like you have
Yeah.
like for example, would the government have to pay for convoys to get troops to go around? I guess that would be reasonable. Like I don't know, you could
Yeah.
have state-run
Yeah.
ports, I guess. You know, I'm not sure like how well it would work because the game kind of already relies on convoys for certain things. Like you know, I guess when the government buys convoys, it could translate into the actual convoy number at the top of the screen. But then, you know, I don't know. It's it would be complicated to implement. But yeah, being able to privatize stuff like construction and being able to privatize stuff like ports, I think would make a lot of sense in terms of just like the history, but also in terms of the gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys.
Okay, have we exhausted our questionnaire we prepared for you, Tarkus? I need
I don't know. You tell me.
I need to. I just.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Chumm.
we're getting to about 2 hours. We're past 2 hours.
Yeah,
here
we're
now,
2
right?
hours 10. For me.
Oh yeah. Just a couple more questions, and then
Sure.
you can get along your way. My
Sounds
question
good.
is well, we know CK3 is your favorite game right now, or your favorite Paradox game by far.
Yeah.
Are we gonna see what is the future of your channel looking like for content wise?
Well, I mean, Victoria 3 is definitely like because Victoria 3 has been more interesting lately. I'm willing to keep it up. I had sworn off Victoria 3 a while ago because it was just like I was so bored of it. But Victoria 3 now I'm having a lot more fun with. So definitely you can expect like more of that. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing guides because guides are a bit stale eventually. But also like you
Yeah.
know just being real with you, guides are like pay the bills. You know, is how it is.
True.
Guides are people watch them. They're good money. So I'm probably gonna keep making those just because like hey you know I want to make some money. But I have
Yeah.
other projects in mind. Like I want to do more stories. For me, like writing is one of my favorite things to do, just like as a like hobby,
course.
let alone for work and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So I want to do. I did one Victoria 3 GIGACHAD story. It was about Mexico a long time ago, before Sphere of Influence, and I got flamed for playing badly by people who didn't know that I was making a story. So I was like,
Right.
okay. Like so I told myself the community doesn't want stories right now because in CK3 people love stories, but in Vic 3 I think
Yeah.
at the time, I think in Victoria 3's community, there wasn't a demand for stories. There was a demand for like, you know, good gameplay
How do we
and
play the
guides and
game?
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, let me not do stories yet. But with Victoria 3 kind of hitting a maturity point where like I think maybe people are more interested in the creative stuff, like seeing, for example, Chumm's channel rise a little bit. I'm like, okay, people are more willing to see like, you know, Chumm is doing memes, which is, you know, every memes always do well. But you know, I was thinking, okay, maybe I could try doing stories again. We'll see. CK3 DLC is coming out next month though, in like I think a couple weeks actually. It's like early next month. So that is going to completely take over the channel, obviously, once that comes out. And I'm, you know, that's going to just like,
I'm
that's
looking
going to
forward
just,
to that.
Victoria 3 is probably going to fall to the wayside, depending on what DLC is. If the DLC is shit, like Legends of the Dead, then I'll do it for like a couple weeks and then move on, because Legends of the Dead didn't have enough to keep me there.
Yeah.
Except for the mod that I made. That was my big project for that DLC, was the mod that I made for it. But then, you know, if the DLC is good, then yeah, I'll stick on McLeod Stories. If it's not good, then I'll go back to Victoria 3, I guess. And also, I was thinking of trying to do some EU4 stuff. The only thing is, like, EU4 is very saturated, and I don't know what I can contribute to the EU4 community that would be of value. I, by total fluke, had some very successful EU4 videos a while back where I did, like, guides. And I realized that, like, you know, there's a lot of like demand for much higher level guides than what you'll find on say like a Ludi channel or like a Red Hawk channel.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
that they're
yeah.
bad at the
Right,
game or
right,
anything,
right.
but they do like sort of middle to like middling level guides and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that there was quite a bit of demand for like these really like powerful openings. Like I did one is England where I don't know if you guys are familiar with England and EU4, but you can pick between Angevin Empire
Right.
and Britain basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did one
Yeah.
where I basically did both ends of the tree by playing England and taking the Britain side, but still putting France into a PU. So I was like, yeah, this is like how you can get best of both worlds kind of thing, right? And then I conquered all of India by like 1550 or something, some crazy
Hey,
speedrun
oh,
conquest of
what
India
the
and stuff,
heck?
right?
Yeah.
And that video
Whoa.
did amazingly because people were like, yo, that was crazy, that was so good. But for me, I'm pretty good at EU4, but I got help from Lambda's community. I asked them for advice about something like doing England like perfectly, and I realized that like they're very nice people and they're happy to help out. So I found that was kind of a niche for like asking for the advice from the super GigaChad players who never make videos
Oh,
because they're
yeah.
just too busy playing, and then
Oh,
translating it to like
true.
a guide for
True.
regular players. That did pretty
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
but then I got bored of EU4. Unfortunately, my ability to make content is very much dependent on like if I like the game. It's hard for me to do something I
Yeah.
don't like. So I got bored of EU4 and stopped making them, but they did pretty well for a bit. So you may see EU4 stuff. The last thing I really want to do is the mega campaigns. So I did I live streamed an entire Imperator Rome playthrough with the extended timeline mod. So I went from like
Oh,
Whoa.
no
so,
way.
so
That's
it took like
my.
insane.
20 hours to do, not in one sitting. I did like over the course of like a
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Wow.
Played
Wow,
till
that's
like the year
insane.
200 and something, and then I
That's
converted it to
insane,
CK3
dude.
with the Fallen Eagle mod, so that way I could
Oh,
have
that's
like the Rise of
sick.
Islam and stuff and all that, because the converter supports Imperator Rome to CK3 with Fallen Eagle. But
Oh wow.
that
Wow.
those take so long to do. I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
haven't even that happened like 2 months ago. I still
Whoa.
haven't
Oh my
released the video of me playing Imperator Rome for the mega campaign because like
God.
it's so much footage to comb through, and like
Yeah.
I'm trying to like write it nicely. Like it's not just like I'm describing what's happening. I'm trying to create like a little story around it. I'm trying to make it interesting. I did one
Mm.
mega campaign video series that did pretty poorly, but I will say
Yeah.
that was mostly because I hadn't uploaded videos in a couple weeks. So one thing with
Oh,
YouTube is
true.
there's like momentum. YouTube has like a
Yeah.
momentum kind of thing to it.
Yeah.
So if you don't
Yeah.
upload for a
Right.
while, no matter what you upload, it'll do kind of poorly until you get back into the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
So choosing to make the comeback like a big project probably wasn't a good idea. It should have been a
Right.
couple of smaller videos than the big mega campaign. But regardless, I love doing mega campaigns because to me that gives like the most possibility for the most crazy storytelling. So I really want to do them, but like, oh my god, it's so much time. It's like I need to be sure that what I make will do well if I do a mega campaign.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
I'm wasting a lot of time. It's just an opportunity cost, right? Whereas when I do a Victoria 3 video, it's like, yeah, that's probably going to get like 20 to 40,000 views, and it's going
Yeah.
to take me like 3 days to make. Easy, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
guaranteed success. So we'll see. I'm not even certain exactly what I'll do, but I know that when the CK3 DLC comes out, that's going to be the focus of the
Yeah.
channel for a bit.
Oh yeah. That's.
I mean, I have to say, Tarkus, that I really like your content. Please do not move away from your niche because like you are right down my alley of like testing the boundaries of not even boundaries sometimes, but like testing that this is a very niche, intricate. This is the limits of the mechanics, and you're like
Yeah.
pushing it and exploring it and discovering it. Like I really enjoy that type of deep dives
Yeah.
into minute things, and I think you're a valuable contribution.
Thanks.
So
Yeah,
as I said,
I don't
Yeah.
plan to leave the Vic 3 niche. It's more like, well, once you've dived into like most of it, you don't have any more to
Yeah,
dive into, right? So then
exactly.
you have to get creative. Like for example,
Right.
in CK3, I didn't do a lot of guide stuff, but I did the ultimate guide thing, and then didn't make any more
Yeah.
guides because like there's not much more to say. Like the
Yeah.
game, I did everything. Now I get creative. Victoria 3 is complex enough right now that there's still more to dive into. I still have a couple more things that I want to do, and then I want to go to the creative side. But by the time I get there, CK3 DLC is coming out. So then I
Right.
may
Yeah.
I may skip over the creative Vic 3 videos and more just focus on the guides till CK3 DLC comes out.
Right.
Just gonna depend on how fast I work. I wish I was more consistent, but sometimes like some days I work like a beast and I get like shit done really well. Other days I'm like, oh god, bro, I wrote like 1,000 words today and did nothing else, and I feel like shit.
Right.
Yeah.
It just depends on however the day goes, right? I should have the next video out in a couple days, but even then, maybe it'll be a couple more days after that. I'm not sure. It'll just depend on how I do.
Yeah.
I want to do more collabs though. I had a lot of fun doing the collab.
Yeah.
With,
Oh, yeah,
all of you
totally.
guys.
Oh,
So I want to do more of those for sure. It performed quite well too. I was surprised it performed well because like that video in terms of like what we accomplished in that Austria-Hungary run, we didn't accomplish
There's
anything,
nothing
let's be
there.
honest here.
Right.
We did like nothing.
Yeah.
But you know, just the names pulled people in, right? Like there are lots of people
Yeah,
commenting like,
and
"Yo, it's Chumm." Lots of people commenting about Carpathian Knight. People commented about Smelter and Smithy. Like everyone, I think the only person, very sadly, that didn't get any like references was like Last Jedi. Very sad. I felt
Oh.
bad for him. Nobody was like, "Oh my God, it's Last Jedi." That I felt bad, you know. But everyone got like everyone that was hyped for everyone's like stuff, and I was getting like I had more comments on that video before the premiere of the video than any other video I've ever had in terms
Really?
of like pre-premiere
Wow.
comments. And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, damn.
Wow.
So that was really cool to see, and I was really happy to see everyone being so positive and being happy to see it, and people really enjoyed it. So I'd love to do more of that. I have a sub race going on with Lemon Cake right now. He's like an EU4 YouTuber, if you guys know.
Oh,
We're doing a
yeah,
sub
yeah,
race.
yeah.
So we're planning a collab pretty soon, which I'm really excited for. But I'm actually
Oh.
hashing that out with him today in like 2 hours.
Right.
I
Oh,
arranged
cool.
for-
Fun.
yeah, so we're hashing out our collab in a couple hours.
Man,
Just
I,
fun.
I love Lemon Cake as well because he's also like he's had intricate knowledge of just
Yes.
obscure EU4 mechanics. Like
Mm.
I really enjoy watching his.
He does a similar. He to me is he's very similar to me in that like I love to really go really deep into the mechanics. He does the same thing too. I used to do like video essays on my channel about like CK3 and stuff. Like I have a couple of them, and some of them did very well. And I love doing that kind of stuff. And then I moved more towards like the more basic gameplay because he's just more consistently performing. But he
Yeah,
does like
yeah.
sort of he found a niche of doing like not video essays. His are short. His are like 10ish minutes, 20ish minute videos. But where he'll like pick some obscure thing and then just talk about it like with like just a picture of his lemon cake avatar and then like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
background will just have some information.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, like he found the ability to get views with videos that are just a picture of his avatar plus like some background information here and there.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like,
What the-
damn, bro, because he writes well,
Dude.
he talks well, and he's smart. That's what you got to be to make those kind of videos, right? So I love
True.
watching those, and to me, that's a style that I would love to also do. I did do it for a while, but I'm just too inconsistent. And to be fair, he's told me about how like his views are also wildly inconsistent. Like it sucks to have this like sometimes
Yeah.
it'll be able to take off, other times it won't. Whereas for me, pretty much you can look at the most recent videos, pretty much everything will perform in the same range, which is
Right.
good because it means I can
Right.
accurately predict how well I'll do, right? I have occasional
Yeah.
pop off video, but most time it's like anywhere from 20k to like 40k views, and then it kind of falls off into a small trickle of views over time. And I'm happy with that. I don't need to explode, you know. I'm cool just to get like a pretty average number of views over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful that so like I mean, even though it's not that consistent, I'm thankful such creator exists because like it just enjoyable to have someone just not the regular bread of the like this is another like we're not playing Prussia again, or we're not like it's just something else, which is nice. I saw some guy in CK as well doing some like he bust out some so like real like statistical program, like I'm going to do all of the men at arms, like all the men at arms.
That sounds awesome. Yeah,
and he's gonna run like you know like statistical like 100 men at arms and then
Wow.
you work out like averages and stuff like that. And then he did what's the best men at arms kind of thing. And like you know I'm so nerdy, I just love that shit. Like there's no single footage of just actual gameplay in that video. I just love it. It's just
That's
gross.
fair. Yeah. CK3, you don't really, you know, again, CK3 is like the game I'm the most expert in. I mean, CK3, you can use the shittiest men at arms and you'll still win, just because if you know how to play the game right, you'll be fine. But yeah, optimization is fun. I when I was a speedrunner for CK3, like really into it, I optimized a lot. But the game just isn't really as fun for that. Like, it just, you know, I found that it's just like, it's a lot more fun just to be creative. Like, I got my following off of being a speedrunner and then kind of just transitioned into regular content, which to be honest with you, like, I'm obviously biased because I did it, but it feels like it's one of the best ways to like start content creation.
Right.
It's just like speedrunning, because everyone loves speedrunning no matter what game it is.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. Like, I mean, I guess I know why. It's hype. It's always hype to watch someone speedrun. But like, I know a lot of I know of channels, like a lot of them where their start has been speedrunning, even like Small Ant and stuff. Like he's another Canadian YouTuber who does like Nintendo games and stuff, right? You've probably heard of him. He's a pretty big channel. But he started off with speedrunning, and he still does occasional like speed runs, but all he does is like, and I do this too, you just put a timer on screen and you play casually, but you call it a speed run because like you know,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
you just I do it all the time on my Twitch stream. I'll always have a timer on screen just because like people like
that,
timer
huh?
just makes it. I always tell people it increases the pogs per minute when you have the timer.
Oh.
Dopamine levels.
People just get hyped. They just like, oh yeah, you know, even though I'm not speedrunning, even though I'm not really doing a particular speedrun, it'll just make people hyped to see like a timer, right? It makes it.
Yeah.
It's a smart thing to do. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that now.
They should, yeah, might as well. I mean, obviously you have to have the energy to match it, right? So like one thing when I'm
Yeah,
streaming,
yeah.
I'm very energetic when I stream. Like I'm always talking, and unless it's been like 30 hours, then I get pretty tired. But like if you have a timer on and you're just like blankly staring at the screen, unless you're actually speedrunning, people probably won't care much. But if you're like
Yeah.
commentating what you're doing and being very fast paced and stuff, which I play every game fast paced, I can't play slow. I try to, because people can understand the game better, but I can't do it. I have to play fast.
Yeah.
I zone out if I will play worse playing slow because I will zone out compared to playing fast
Yeah.
where I never lose focus.
Right.
So I have to
Yeah,
play
yeah.
fast.
I mean,
yeah.
Smithy and Chumm, isn't that like you can keep pretty high energy? Wouldn't you like?
Wow.
How to ruin the world economy? The fastest speedrun.
Yeah.
Dude, that's literally
That'd be
what I was
fun.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking that. Isn't that an achievement? I feel like that's an achievement somewhere.
Ruin the world
do
economy.
a speed run where you make the world have 0 GDP, just like destroy all buildings.
It's just destroy
Oh.
it.
Hilarious.
Dude, all right, fuck.
Yeah.
That would take
I guess
forever.
Chum,
there'd always be
collab.
subsistence farms. You can't create subsistence farms, but
Yeah.
you could definitely like radically
just
alter the
Get
GDP
rid of the
world.
people. Yeah, just get
Yeah,
rid of the
true. You could do
population.
that. I saw
Yeah.
your video about that. You could do that. Yeah.
You know what? I might do that.
Chum, I can't lie. When I watched that video and then you sent people to the guy that did it first, I felt so bad because you like just stole his entire idea. But obviously you.
Well, no, he had like 100 views, and I was so
know.
surprised because it was a really good like exploit.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it's an exploit, but I was surprised nobody saw it. So I was like, okay, people have to see this. Plus, Toby was talking about it too. So I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and you nicked it off Toby. It's
Yeah.
crazy, man.
It's all just theft.
Yeah.
Everyone's
so
just stealing.
Sorry, Toby, if you're listening right now.
Yeah.
You're probably not listening.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to make a dedicated video
watch
anyway.
This podcast? Who would watch
Yeah, I
a
know.
podcast like this? Like,
No,
jeez.
who would watch this?
Like,
Yeah,
no one.
Crazy people who
True.
hang around after 2.5 hours.
Yeah, if you're still here, comment something. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Tarkus has luscious locks.
Yeah,
I
comment
got
that.
long hair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally.
I had a shower yesterday, so it's nice. I got the unfortunate gamer issue of skipping showers too often. But
Wow.
yesterday I had a shower.
Dang. Chronic no shower disease.
Yeah, gamer gunk helps with the lubrication on your keyboard. So you can put it faster,
Oh.
is what it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
But,
Oh.
that's the next guide coming out, guys. That's how you speedrun.
Hell yeah.
But speaking of stealing content, I'm hammering out an idea. I think this could be a collab. I just haven't got the logistics in my head. It's just that since for an investment, like similar to what you did in your collab video of just queuing up stuff that so the AI can't produce it, or you can't construct it. I mean, you could just delete all of the arable land in any country you have foreign investment rights in. So I have some I don't know. How fast can we crash the French economy by just deleting all of the arable land?
If you want to know how to crash an economy, I'll give you the speed run to what you're doing. You put AI is forced to subsidize all railways, no matter what. Drop 100 railways in Paris, they'll bankrupt over and over again because they're gonna subsidize the railway for like 80,000.
Yeah.
I did this I did this in a live stream as Persia. I didn't make a video of it, but I did a live stream as Persia. I wanted to beat Russia, and I was like, guys, I can't think of how to beat Russia, so I became friends with them, got foreign investment, built like 150 railways in Moscow, and they bankrupt loop like every couple weeks. Not an easy clap. That is how you crash an economy. Is you just bankrupt. Feel free to steal that. I don't feel any ownership over that trick. That's like a trick that I think
that's a good idea.
I don't even know who I learned it from, but I think it's relatively not well known. Not everyone knows it, but it's a relatively known strategy.
Yeah.
Feel free to yoink it if you want. Just invest because AI never turns off subsidies on railways ever. They never will, even if it's completely crashing their economy. So 100 railways in one state, they can't possibly make a profit on it unless it'll make massive infrastructure for no reason, and they just explode. They'll bankrupt forever.
Yeah.
And they'll never stop. They will not downsize. They will not downsize. They will not, because you control it. So they can't even downsize it because you control it.
So you can downsize that.
And they would, even if they could, they wouldn't though. Even if they were nationalized. For example, Russia later, when I attacked Russia, they started nationalizing the railways, paying me money for the railways
Well,
for bankrupting
Damn.
them that they're then subsidizing to crash their own economy. So I was like, yep, okay.
No.
Amazing. I mean,
So,
to be
yeah,
honest, I think both of these ideas could work because you mean if you just delete all of the Arab land, you're essentially crashing them through turmoil or
yes,
radicals,
radicals and stuff, yeah.
and this is more basically draining their bank account, right? So you can basically have them crumble in different ways. So
Do
I think
both,
both.
yeah.
Are, yeah.
Build 100 railways and then build up every every shitty cash crop you can. Build up like every cotton plantation. Not that cotton's okay sometimes, but like because wheat, for example, could actually help their economy if you build it because wheat was almost always in demand. But just overbuild like something
Livestock
like
ranches or something
like ranches would be perfect. Yeah, overbuild like ranches, like the most useless like thing, and then just like watch their economy just tank as they bankrupt and they have no arable land. And it'd be interesting to try to force a country to zero GDP. But I think that there will always be at least some GDP because there are going to be some people working in those places.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an idea for sure. It definitely made playing Persia easier. It made playing Persia much easier because you could just Russia was easy once they were bankrupted.
Right.
They
Yeah.
had, like nothing. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the ramifications is that if like if there's a mass exodus because there's so much turmoil and they migrate to other countries, or if they release, like it could be something. But I haven't hammered out
an America playthrough where you foreign invest in other countries just to make them get turmoil and then come to your country. I could see that taking off.
All
real
right,
well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Anyway, are we out of ideas, guys?
Any more questions?
I think that. I mean, unless you, Tarkus, have something you wanna.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I could ask. I mean, I could ask you guys some questions, but I know that it's going a bit long. How long do you guys want the podcast to be normally?
You don't necessarily need to ask us. Just anything you have to
say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
like any do you have any tips for? Because you're one of the big YouTubers in Victoria 3 space. Any tips for anyone who wants to get into the content creation side?
Oh, I mean, the most direct tip I'll give is like find something else that someone else made and just do it better. And that sounds really like vague, but it really is that direct. Where it's like, look, the way that I started was I tried to find CK3 guides and they were all dog shit because people don't, they didn't do a very good job. So then I made my guide and it was better.
Yeah.
It was higher quality. It was like better presented, better tips, better voice, whatever, right? Like, other than that, like I'd say you want to start in like a relatively small niche that you can dominate. So one thing's lucky with Paradox games is that they're already pretty small niches. Like don't try to be the next like Lathe, the social streamers, because he is a much bigger content creator than you, and he can just like he'll always win when it comes to doing a relatively chill, we're gonna make Germany run, right? In EU4, I mean. He'll beat you in that. But what you can beat him in is like Brandenburg opening steps or whatever. Even then, you might actually have trouble with that because that's a pretty overdone thing. But, unfortunately, being really, really creative in the start, I think can actually be pretty tough because people won't like. The mass appeal is from like stuff that everyone can watch, right? But most people watch like pretty basic videos. Something like what Chumm does, for example, like. I would say he's pretty lucky to have gotten like good views on some of those like more creative victory videos, because most of the time people will you can find lots of the good example, the one Chumm talked about, the guy that like killed off like a bunch of people in Belgium or that small channel. It's a good video, but it's like a tiny niche, right? So you have to start with something where a niche that's big enough that you can reasonably get a following on it, but small enough that you can dominate it. So you got to find something where no other content creator has like created high quality content for it, and then go and make something of a higher quality than whatever is there. For me, that was CK3 guides. There weren't really any very good CK3 guides, so I made a CK3 guide, and that blew me up. Now, obviously, that like massively blew me up. That was like a huge thing. Yours might not be like that, but let's say, for example, you're used to getting, when you're a really new content creator, you might be happy to get 100 views. If you can get that to 1,000, then you've already 10 times your viewership, right? So you want to even just get a video that'll get you if you can get 1,000 views in a video, you're already off to a great start if you're just starting on YouTube. Because many people are gonna make a video that's gonna get 50 views and then never get a view again. Like that's gonna be it. You're gonna get like 25 to 50 or something, and that'll be it. Just get 1,000. Get your first 1,000 views in a video, and you'll be on a good place. I'd also say like, I don't know if this still applies because I started streaming when COVID was around and streaming was big during COVID because everyone was at home. But I found that streaming was a very good way to promote YouTube videos, because I'd make a video and maybe it wouldn't do that well, but then I could stream and I could say to people in the stream, because I got a couple stream viewers and stuff. Be like, hey, check out this video, by the way. And if people go and watch the video, they might spread it around. They might not. A couple of views might help. Whatever, it can help a little bit. Also, put stuff on Reddit, where when you're a small enough content creator that every view counts. Going to Reddit and getting like 3 people to click on the video is still better than nothing. So
Yeah.
Reddit's helpful. Obviously, check the rules of the Reddit. See if they don't want you to self-promote, then don't do it. But I used to post on CK3. What I did was you disguise your self-promotion. I posted after action reports, a very common thing in CK3. And then I would link. Right. I'd say, if you want a video version of the after action report, here's the video. And the video wasn't really a summary of the after action report, but who's checking? It was just like a YouTube video that was about what I wrote, but it was like a whole ass video. It wasn't just like an after action report. So and who's checking? No one's being like, what you posted, that video isn't part of the after action report, so we're gonna ban the post. No one's doing that. So you go on the Vic 3 subreddit, post like something like, I made this guide for something, and then do a text guide, right? And then say, if you want a video version, here's the video version, and people will click it. They'll absolutely click it, and no one's gonna be like, this is self-promotion. It's like, no, you're making a guide, you're making a service for the community, and it also is promoting you. Exactly. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Right?
That'd be a good way to start, I think. And speedruns, obviously. I think speedruns are a great way to start. If you have the skill, go be a speedrunner. Vic 3 has a speedrun community. I'm actually a super moderator for the Vic 3 speedrun.
Oh,
really? So if you speedrun, so if you speedrun and submit it, I'll watch it. By the way, to verify it. But
finally, Tarkus can watch my videos.
What?
I watch your videos, but I don't always watch them. But I do put comments, even if I don't watch them. But either way, point is like, if you want to do speedruns, it can be a very good way to get some attention. Is to like make a nice thumbnail and a good title, and then make a speedrun. People love speedruns. It's just people are always hyped for it. Just something crazy, if you want to get big, make the America territory guide. Be the one. Okay?
Oh yeah,
that's it. If you want to blow up now, like if you're ready for it, if you have the ability, make the American territory guide. Make the Krakow guide. That's because that's a niche that has not filled at all. That there's lots of demand for. Everyone wants to know how to get American territory. Nobody wants to do it.
Right.
So,
true.
Yeah.
Technocrat.
You gotta do it before I do, because I'm planning it. I'm gonna try to do it soon. So you got a couple weeks.
Race is on.
Once CK3 DLC comes out, you're in the clear. I'm not probably gonna focus on that, but if I can find a strat before that DLC comes out, you're in trouble, buddy.
You're done.
I'm coming for that niche. It's over.
Anyone who's here, anyone who's listening right now, you better get on that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with Vic though. Like I would love to make like guides and stuff more than just more vague overlapping guides and stuff. But like it can be pretty inconsistent, because if you're a small country, you're so reliant on like other larger countries just not going against you or going with you or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what you just mentioned. The thing is, I will say this: don't worry about like any negative backlash if you like make a guide that ends up like being inaccurate or something. I've gotten people who will leave comments that are like, "Oh my god, I tried this guide, and then Britain just like invaded me in like 1 year." And I'm like, I ignore the comment. The video keeps getting views. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's literally like it doesn't even matter, because 95% of people are not even gonna. I'll just be honest with you, 95% of people are gonna watch the guide and then never play the game, because they just want to like watch the videos but don't want to play the game. 5% of people, 4% of people are gonna try the guide and find success or find failure but not leave a comment. 1% are gonna find failure and get mad at you, and then that's it. You just don't reply to it. Whatever. Or maybe you do reply, and if the person's friendly, I get sometimes some heated comments from people I don't reply to. But if someone's like friendly and just asking, I tried this, but this happened, I'll leave a reply that's like, maybe that's because of this and this and this, and they'll say thank you, and they move on. But if someone's being mad at you, like, don't even worry about like, unless your video's getting like mass downvoted, you're not. It's fine. It doesn't even.
Yeah.
Who cares about like this one person that failed to use your guide correctly? A lot of times it's their fault too. People have sent me like save files and stuff, or like just in my Discord, and they'll send me save files like, hey, what did I do wrong? And I'll identify all the things that are wrong with it, and it's like, yeah, it wasn't my guide's problem, you just played wrong. One guy sent me a save file where he was like, hey, I tried following your Japan guide. I look in his save file, he had like 40% infrastructure in Tohoku, because he built all of his iron mines there. He didn't spread them out. He's like, why is my budget dying? I'm like, my guy, you're paying an extra 60% on all of your iron for your construction because you have no infrastructure in Tohoku. You should have built some in Kansai. Like that's just a skill issue. There's nothing wrong with the guide there, right?
Yeah.
Smithy, that's you.
No, I just missed. I missed in infrastructure once, and this guy won't let it go. My bad.
Skill issue.
Yeah. What? You know what? You lost that war anyway. Korea would have been fine if it weren't for you.
All right. We're not talking about that anymore. All right.
But,
Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, like
go ahead.
I just want to promote Tarkus community a bit more. Like I recently joined his Discord, your Discord, Tarkus, and like you are like how you interact with your community is really like admirable. I strive towards being that kind of a community leader that you are. Like it's one of I'm part of a bunch of communities around like Wiki and Paradox games, and that is one of the better ones. So.
Yeah,
If anyone is
it's all
listening,
moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just gotta keep the bad people out, keep the good people in. I ban people, not regularly, but if people come in that are being jerks, they get banned. It's how it is. You just you cultivate the community that you want. You just don't just let everyone in, and then you get a good community.
But also like I feel like some some content creators just have a Discord just like they slap on a Discord and on their like you're supposed to have one, and then you never interact with your community, but you're very interactive with your community. You're like people send you save files and they're like and you answer to them, and people ask questions and they're very interactive. So instead of just having a community on the side of your content or on your channel, you're very like active in the community. So very nice. Go join this.
It helps to, if you're asking for tips for new content creators, a fan who joins the Discord that you then reply to and talk to is going to be a fan forever. Some people in my Discord don't play Vic 3 like at all, but and they're just there because they're like guys that used to watch me speedrun who I got really close to. There's one viewer in there. A special shout out to Banger Kicks. Okay, he's a longtime viewer. He and I. He plays EU4. I like never play EU4 on my channel, but I played EU4 a couple of times, and then I just like interacted with him quite a bit when he joined the Discord, and he's still here. And he started playing Vic 3 because he wanted to like interact more. So now he plays Vic 3 and he's terrible at it. Sorry, buddy, but he's terrible at it. But he, but he wants to like learn to play, and so just because he's part of the community, and the community transcends. Like it starts with just a connection between the games. And then it transcends into more like, you're part of this community of people, and it helps you a lot with keeping long-term viewership. If you can join your Discord, they become interactive, and then they stick around. And I don't look at it like with that much of a business lens. Like I do actually like a lot of my community members just as people, like we talk and stuff. But definitely like, people will watch your videos if they see you as like a friend, although it's also a slippery slope and it's a bit scary to be friends with your viewers, right? But if you have to evaluate your own mental health abilities and be like, can I be like friends with these people? Like because sometimes I'm busy in life, so I don't interact with my Discord very much, and I'm okay with that. But some people feel pressure. They'll be like, oh, I have to talk to these people. It's like at the end of the day, I keep everyone at arm's length. It's like I'm just kind of
Chumm's
Chum.
Chumm's laptop just crashed.
Yeah, rip Chum. Just like in the collab. But you keep them at arm's length. If you feel comfortable, you bring them closer. If you feel comfortable, you do what you're okay with, right? Like for me, I'm okay to just like occasionally, I just leave everyone on red in my Discord, and I'm fine with that. Other times I reply to everything. It just depends on how I'm feeling, and I'm comfortable with that. That's up to each person to determine.
Yeah, I think it's very important to keep a good community, because even though I haven't played Minecraft in like 3 years, I had this little server going, and there's still this one guy that talks and like watches every video, even though he's not even played a single Paradox game ever. And he's just still there, and he's like, oh yeah, I enjoyed it, even though I have no idea what the game even is. And like, you've got to keep those people around, because in the grand scheme of things, not everyone's going to stick around, but there could be a couple people that will, and that's always worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like, if you get 1,000 viewers, if you get 1,000 views in a video, and like one of them joins your Discord and then becomes a permanent member of your community, that's like +1 permanent view. Like your floor, your minimum viewership is now increased, and that's everything. Generalist mentioned this. I forget what video. I don't know. I don't remember if it was like one of his ideas live streams. If you guys don't know, Generalist has like another channel where he talks about like philosophy and stuff.
All right.
Generalist ideas. Yeah. Very cool channel. Yeah. But I was in a live stream he was doing on that channel one time where he talked about like the in terms of like self-improvement, one big thing is people often focus on increasing what their maximum achievement is, but the better thing is to focus on making the floor of your achievement better, so that like psychologically it's really valuable to have it so that the lowest performance you ever have is better over time, rather than focusing on what your maximum is, because you can never, psychologically it's very damaging to constantly peak, because then one day you won't peak and you'll feel terrible. Whereas it feels really good to have your floor go up It's like, yeah, like now I'm getting,
That's really
no matter
good,
what my
actually.
video is, like for example, every
Yo.
video that I release, no matter what it is, will always get at least like 5,000 views. Like my worst videos will have like 5,000 views, and that's amazing to me because there was a time when my worst videos only got 10 views. Like when I did my very first speedrun videos where they were just like uncut live streams, they were not very good videos, but you know, the floor there was like 10 or something. Now the floor is like 5K. I want the floor to get to like 10K, right? Eventually. I don't think of my highest performing videos. I think of my worst performing ones and how good they're doing, and that really
True.
helps with my mental health. You know.
Wow, that's a good
Yeah,
way
you've
to
just
look at
saved
it.
my mental health, like right there.
That's
Yeah, me
generalist.
too, me
just to be
too.
really clear, that's generalist thing. I'm just
Generalist,
repeating it,
shout
okay?
out, generalist.
Yeah, thank you.
That's generalist. Yeah. It was meaningful to me when I heard that. I was like, damn, you know, that's really, really wise. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
All right, we know our next guest, guys.
Well,
get him
yeah,
on. Oh, yeah.
we should. Anyway, should we?
Tell him I shit talked him the whole time. Tell him like, yo, Tarkus was here last episode. And he was just saying all the worst shit about you. Remember, I want to have a boxing match with him. Okay, so we gotta get the drama going. We gotta get the drama going so we can get the boxing match.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
tell him
should
that
do
I
it.
shit talked him.
So much, dude. He's so strong. Yeah,
because
his
like
other channel, his lifting channel is insane.
His lifting channel,
right? Yeah.
He does. He has a lifting channel, an ideas channel, and a gaming channel.
Wow.
Yeah, he's insane, dude.
Yeah.
He's actually insane. I'd watch
So you guys
that.
let him know.
Yeah, I'll ref.
Yeah,
I'll ref for you guys. I'll ref.
Hell yeah.
Do you have any like? I'm trying to do like a papal video, like like to. I'm trying to do this whole like power block with the religious thing with the Pope thingy. Like, I just can't, since they changed the like journal entry for Italy and stuff like I just can't do. I tried multiple times. Like
I did an unreleased papal video. I didn't like the video when I finished it, so it's not released. But the Papal States is interesting because you're on traditionalism to start, which is quite the kneecap.
Oh yeah.
But what I did as Papal States actually was I just like, what do you call it? I fought against Austria immediately with British support and then became a British protectorate, and that way you get the British market, and it's super good.
Yeah.
And I got immigrants. Every video is all immigrants, but that's what I did. If you want, like, I don't know if it'll help you, but I basically joined the British power bloc becoming their protectorate to join their market and stuff. And then the only problem was they eventually wanted to like start reducing my autonomy and stuff. So then I broke free from them using France's support. And by the time I did that, I had conquered South Africa. I had conquered I did the thing where you split India into 1 million pieces. You guys know the exploit by now. And I conquered a bunch of India. So like, you know, that Papal States is tough from the start, but sticking with Austria is probably like the worst thing you can do. Unfortunately, Austria is like really, really bad for you.
Yeah, because that's been the strat I've been trying to do as well. It's like, but what tends to happen is that Austria creates this hug box with Sardinia, Piedmont, and two Sicilies, and you can't get out of it.
Yeah, with I don't remember. I'd have to look at the footage again because I did it a while ago and I just never released it. But yeah, it was like it was a tough run for sure. But going with Britain was helpful.
But it just goes again to show that the general route for small nations is that you join a bigger market, you conquer parts of Africa to get like just inflate your GDP figures so you get more prestige, and like you conquer Transvaal and you get all of the gold mines and stuff. So
exactly,
it's
that strat works really nicely.
Yeah, so they once again the need for some changes
creativity.
So that playing in a small nation, just not conquering. How fast can you conquer South Africa's speedrun, right?
Yeah, and Borneo. Never forget Borneo. I didn't do Borneo in that run, but Borneo has gold as well. That's also a place you can go to. And if you're willing to, Mexico, if you have the power to, just beware. If you take California, America will come for you. But if you have Britain protection, like if you're in the British market or if you're like an Austrian market, I think Austria or Britain probably can beat America if the war is quick enough. America can conscript really fast, and then you can end up fighting a really colossal power. But if you can get them done before they can conscript up, then you can beat America. Yeah, but definitely conquer California is scary because they'll come. America will come for you if you conquer California.
Oh yeah,
they will destroy you even if they think they might lose. The AI is really aggressive with Manifest Destiny. I haven't checked the game files, but I'm pretty sure there's a huge, just like artificially increased weight for declaration of war, because like sometimes America, will attack like Mexico, who's defended by France, and then lose the war, even though they
Yeah.
should have known they were going to lose.
Yeah.
Because
Because like they're just really they're hyper aggressive
hard-coded
for
to- yeah.
they're like hard coded to go for their manifest destiny, which is probably for the best, to be honest. They probably should go for
Yeah.
it, because I've seen
Yeah.
in old patches America almost never manifested its destiny. Now
Right.
it always does.
Yeah, it's good that America gets to an actual good size.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they changed that in response to like complaints that the America never formed or something like that. Like they never give up.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, boys, I have another meeting with Lemon Cake in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I should go soon.
Yeah.
But any last
Been a
things
pleasure.
before I go? It's like got 15 minutes, so feel free to ask more if you want.
I think we can
Yeah.
call it here.
Yeah.
I think this is a
We've
good.
got a good chunk.
We got a huge
yeah.
chunk. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
no.
much, Tarkus. It's been
Yeah,
really
thank you.
great.
Yes. What
No
a
problem,
pleasure.
No problem. No
What a
problem. Thank you guys for
pleasure. I'm
having me.
getting-
I appreciate it. You asked great
Yeah.
questions. It's nice to hang out.
Yeah.
I look forward to doing more stuff with you guys sometime. Some collab or
Of
whatever.
course.
We'll
Oh
see.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Of course.
looking forward to it.